From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, Erin Brockovich. With Gina Grad on news, Bald Bryan on sound effects, and Dave Damashek's back for good sports. Plus a spirited round of the Rotten Tomatoes game, and now he talked so long with Kirstie Alley yesterday, he's now a Scientologist. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on. A mandate, you get it on, man. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
And Bald Bryan.
You suck.
Oh.
I had a thought for any young people that want to screw around with old people and have a laugh about it.
Tell.
Listen up.
So last week, I was sitting around my house at, it was a Friday, it was like 8 at night, and I got the call from Lynette and Natalia. Oh, we're up the street, neighbors kind of having their, it's not really a block party, it's kind of a cul-de-sac, have a few drinks out on the lawn with a folding table party, but the kids
That's today's block party.
Yeah.
A cul-de-sac get-together.
Kids are having a good time, come on by. So me and Sonny went on by, and the parents...
Sack party.
Yeah,
a sack party.
Sack party. So we were having having some drinks and sitting out there, and it's funny because if you get old enough people to sit around and start talking about stuff, eventually, and if they're guys, they'll start drinking. Like eventually, they start going, yeah, I played a little AAA ball back in the day, or I was a standout defensive back in my high school back in the whatever, and then start talking sports, and then people get a little buzz, and then at some point. See, the kids aren't drinking, and they don't really have anything to do except for kind of physical stuff. So at some point, one of the kids will bust out something. In this case, it was a pogo stick. And what happens is the kids bust it in, and the kids are 14 and very sober. You know what I mean? So they bust out the pogo stick, and they'll just be bouncing along in front of the garage on the driveway, and you're 12 feet away talking about how good you were in high school, right? And then at some point, one of the buzzed adults will go, yeah, let me give that a shot. And they'll grab the pogo stick, and you already know where this is going. Because the pogo stick is like the non-motorized version of the ATV or the quad or the whatever. They look pretty innocuous. Like, let me give that a shot. You end up on your ass in the driveway, just like you do with the ATV. You get on the thing, put a beer between your legs, you got your flip-flops on, and next thing you know, you're in a drainage ditch with Ozzy Osbourne.
You go full Simon Cowell.
Right. So you go, but the pogo stick looks so innocuous, you know what I mean? So then the kid, and by the way, the kid's nailing it, right? He's been on it for 5 minutes, not missed a beat. So then at some point, one of the adults, now again, this has to work through the prism of a buzz. You know what I mean? At some point, one of the dads gets up and goes, let me give that a shot. Just eat shit out on the driveway. Like what happens is you get two good ones in, and then the third one you get a little out of whack,
a little sideways,
and it slips out from under you.
You have to abandon ship at that point. That's the one where you kick it out and let it go. But your pride says, I can salvage this. It's a plane you need to jump out of, but you think you can nurse it home. You know what I mean? You needed to bail out. And so when you're in the air and you get a little cattywampus, bail. You'll land on your feet. But if you try to hit the landing and correct it, then go further toward Mecca.
You got a blue ankle.
The dad hit the driveway, like made contact with rolled on the driveway.
Yeah.
Then the mom, again, this only works in the context of a buzz. You know what I mean? Then the mom says, let me give it a shot. And she's got road rash. She's on there. Now, the great thing is no matter what happens, everyone's got so much pride that they pop up and they're like,
I'm good.
You'll be doing that move the next day when you're stepping out of the shower and you see this huge black and blue, whatever, on your right hip when you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror. But then I was sitting there and they're like, give it a shot, Adam. And I was like, there's one thing you can say about me and alcohol, which is I'm one of the few people who realizes I'm drunk. You know what I mean? Like, I will go, I shouldn't do this. I know what this is. Like everyone else,
You're the one.
The booze is the enabler. Like the booze is what makes them think they can do this stuff. My stuff is like, I'm perfectly aware of the fact that I've been sitting here drinking for the last 3 hours. Like, I got a buzz, and this ain't going to work out.
Like the Little League coach or the Babe Ruth League coach used to tell you, play within yourself. It's like, I know my limits. I'm not going to try and do things I can't do.
But after the third person said, give it a try, I went up and did it anyway.
Sure,
now,
good.
my unicycle riding will even out my buzz. So I was able to pull it off. But even I gave like 8 good bounces, and then I hopped off. I was like,
between the unicycle and the jump rope, you should be at least adept. Minus the booze.
You
At
play
least
catch
adept.
on a balance ball.
right, and that will bring me down to a regular person being sober, I guess is what it is, because the balance makes up for the buzz, but also you have to kind of make sure where you are in the buzz spectrum. You know what I mean? But either way, I did like 8 good bounces, and then I hopped off because I'm like, I don't need to do 25 bounces. I'll do 8, and then I'll hop off. But I thought to myself, if you don't like your parents or you don't like your parents' friends, and you're young and you're listening, and they're having their pool party or their whatever their thing is, let them get emulsified a little bit. Let them get a few beers in their gullet. Let them get a few cocktails in them, and then bust out that. Now, don't bust it out and present it to them.
No,
That's the whole thing. Bust it out.
Act
and
like you're having fun.
You have fun with it, and at some point, inevitably, one of the buzzed adults will stand up in their flip-flops and their board shorts and go, hey, let me give that a... Also, they all bounced on one when they were a kid and were pretty good at it. So they sort of think, I can just go over and that's... So, again, get the... If only if you don't like your parents and their friends, get that pogo stick, have it in the garage, and bust it out. And I guarantee you'll see some old guy's asses hit the pavement. Yes.
You know what's a good version of this if you have a pool and not a pogo stick is the back flip or front flip into the pool. If you're the kid, do that 10 or 12 times, and then everyone did it as a kid. Then the adult comes waddling over, drunk on booze, like, oh, let me show you how it's done. And then next thing you know, back flop or belly flop.
And I don't think they make these anymore. Brian's probably going to be the only one who knows what I'm talking about. If you don't have a pogo stick, dust off your pogo ball.
Oh, yeah, the bouncy
Pogo
ball.
ball is what they call it.
Oh,
That
they
was
have
big.
wait, is that the one you sat on with the
No,
handle?
it's a little like hard rubber ball with like a Saturn
With like a flange around it.
and you balance yourself on that and while holding the ball in place, squeezing your feet and jumping up and down. That was
Oh,
very-
that one.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
People had a hoppity hop, I think they call it, which was that was a yoga ball with a kettlebell handle on it that you would hang on to and scooch around. This novelty of scooching around was something we do when we
I
were
remember.
kids.
You sat on it, right?
Yeah.
You sat on it. It's weird, transportation. Like, if you knew a kid that had an electric car that you could sit in and go around in, like, that was a big ticket item. My kids in general, like, I remember very clearly when I was sitting in this shop, must have been 10 years ago, I had a bunch of go-karts and mini bikes and stuff like that in the back. And I remember when Jimmy's son, Kevin, who it's even longer than 10 years ago, because I've had this place like 15 years. Anyway, he was like 11. And he was just walking to the back of the shop, and he literally just stepped over the go-kart and kept walking. And I was like, oh, my God, if I was 11 and there's a go-kart pack in the back of a shop, I would have had 2,000 questions about it and been begging people to fire it up. And then I realized all that stuff, again, the driving, the riding, the go-kart and stuff like that, it just doesn't, I don't know, maybe it's video games. Like, I don't know. The kids don't feel as...
That's a very specific slice of today's kids, Kevin Kimmel and like a Sonny Carolla. Like, these are kids who have access to things that I'll just say most kids don't have access to.
You're right. They're definitely true. But, and we're looking at the hoppity hop from back
new
in the
and
day.
improved.
So I had, Max Pata, from the show The Munsters, Marilyn, the blonde. I think her last name was Price or something like that. I don't know. I think I met her son And in the Munsters, the
Pat Priest, you're thinking
Pat
of.
Priest,
Yeah.
right? So she was a starlet, kind of blonde
Yep.
starlet from back in the day.
Like
And-
Ellie Clampett looking.
Yeah, and she sent me an autographed picture of her because she was in a movie called what was it called? The
The
Transplant.
two-headed transplant.
Right. So we already
What was
had
with that Aaron? Two heads.
we had a Rosie Greer movie with the
Yes.
two-head, which was. This movie was 71. The Rosie Greer one was 72. This is like our two volcano movies coming in 88 and 89 or 92, 96 and 97 or whatever it was. But I mean, it's like two bad transplant head monster movies. And I looked at the trailer for this bad boy. Now, a lot of it is visual, so I won't bore everyone. But in the first 20 seconds, it was we had such a bizarre taboo around sexuality. Like when there was a lot of rape themes in the 60s and the 70s. One of the most popular magazines I would always see on the newsstand at like the 7-Eleven was like True Crime magazine, but it wasn't true crime, guy with red hair laying dead on the floor. It was always the stiletto in between the bra. It always where the turnbuckle where the two cups met.
Yep. Turnbuckle.
Where it was always a stiletto in there, and the chick was like, and her blouse was always torn open.
Right.
It was lots of threats of rape. Like she didn't want this, but he was doing it anyway. Like that was our kind of sexuality in the
Sexual violence.
yeah, it was like for me, I would have been like, look, if I can see titties, I'll see titties. You can put the knife away. It's like no, it's better with the knife. It's better if we force the titties. And it's like, why not just show the titties? No, this is better. See, later on, we kind of got into the sort of Porky's phase or the Animal House phase where it's like, hey, here's just titty for titty's sake. Here's just boobs. You can enjoy your boobs.
What are we supposed to do with all these knives?
And that's a good point because I think they went from that real rapey vibe to the early 80s. Like when you talk about Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds and that stuff, it's all voyeuristic. She doesn't know you're watching, but so she's just going to do it.
We went from rapey to voyeuristic, which is
Animal House.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction, I guess. We're heading toward consensual sex, God willing.
You have to stop through Peeping Town.
That's right. But I'll play the first 20 seconds of this just to hear the trailer.
And I should let everybody know that it's actually called the Incredible Two-Headed Transplant.
Oh, good.
There you go.
I mean, two heads would be incredible.
A massive monster menaces the world. Threatening the most intimate terror a woman ever felt.
All right, hold on. Threatening the most intimate terror a woman has ever felt.
That's
Fun.
creepier than saying rape.
It really is.
Yeah.
The most intimate terror. I want to hear that one more time, Max.
It's like being turned inside out.
It's a blonde chick. It's the gal who sent me the autographed picture in her underpants with her blouse torn open.
That's good.
And I back then, when you sold a hot chick a blouse, I'd be like, you know what? We don't sell our blouses with buttons. And they'd be like, why not? It's just going to get torn open.
Yeah.
Some dude's just going to tear it open.
It's a waste of material. It's going to end up on the ground anyway.
Right. So, sorry. Go ahead.
Most intimate terror a
Oh,
woman
you got to
ever
go back a little. Come on. Get a little head there, Max Bada.
threatening the most intimate terror a woman ever felt. Because of an experimenter with life.
It's got a bunch of animals that they made lay next to each other.
Oh, this is Dr. Moreau-esque.
Yeah, the incredible two-headed transplant.
Who are you? I'm your brother. You and I are now one, dummy.
Oh, sex, rape and sex.
Overall,
Get this gurney out of the way.
They never, they're carrying her off to be raped. But Bruce Dern is in this movie, by the way.
why?
Big names.
These movies are always weird because it's like, all right, you've successfully transplanted your brother's head onto your shoulders. Why do you have superhuman strength?
Like, super horny strength.
Super horny strength. Like, why are you so much stronger than everyone? I don't. I
wonder if there is a line of exposition like now he has the strength of two men.
It'd
The
be nice.
libido of two men.
Don't laugh. I wouldn't be shocked.
Bruce Dern is in this movie, and I was looking at the credits. I think Casey Kasem is in this movie as well. I have no idea
As
what
Shaggy do?
Casey Kasem is doing in this movie. But anyway, there's now two-headed Transplant movies that came out in 1 year apart, one calendar year apart. All right, let's see. Brian had something to say, a philosophical statement about health.
I had an interesting thought. You asked me before the show, you're like, how you feeling? And I thought, well, funny you should mention that because I started my medication, my new round, 25% less dosage 2 days ago. So 3 pills instead of 4, God willing, I won't suffer the same debilitating side effects I had for the last 2 months. And I was thinking, it was a weird thought. I wonder what your guys' sort of philosophical take is on this. I was thinking, so I start Sunday morning. So Saturday evening, I'm sitting there with Christy, and I'm just thinking to myself, I feel great. I felt legitimately great. I had energy. Everything stopped hurting. I was like, this is the best I'm going to feel until the end of the year. Like today, right now, is probably the best I'm going to feel for the rest of 2020 because I'm scheduled to finish my medication in like early mid-December. And it was just a weird mind fuck, I guess. I can't put my mind around it other than like, yeah, I wish I would have taken advantage of this more. I mean, I feel like I did, went to the beach and do all this stuff, but like the next 4 months are going to be some version lesser than I felt, Saturday night. It was just a weird, I don't know, how do you guys reconcile, it's going to be a rough road for the next few months?
I think you're sort of ahead of the game in the acceptance department, even knowing it at the time. How often do people know that at the time, that the moment they're in is the best they're going to be for a while? Everybody looks back at those moments with regret. So the fact that you're aware of it in live time is really a special thing, I think.
Do we know that taking the dosage and bringing it down 25% will make you feel 25% less shitty than you felt on the 4 pills, or might it have a greater effect?
The idea is... Say it again, Gina?
Wasn't that the point?
The idea is they would have a greater effect, Adam, because let's say the toxicity, I'm making a line in my eyes. Yes. Let's say the toxicity level's here and that fourth pill put me here, you know what I mean? That if you bring that down by 25%, it puts me here. I'm putting my hand now below my eyes. Maybe it has the same efficiency, the same effectiveness, but not a toxic effect in terms of side effects. So the hope, the dream is that I will not suffer the same debilitating toxic side effects that I had for 2 months while still getting the efficiency of the actual medicine. Right.
So you might feel better than 25% less shitty, right?
That's the hope and that's the idea. It only struck me that, wow, this could be the best I feel for the next, till the end of the year.
Well, anybody who gets a little older and didn't appreciate how they felt when they were 25 physically, like how
bouncing around on a pogo stick.
Yeah, how easy everything was when you were 25, or what your body would tolerate without feeling sore or weird, or whatever. I think there's kind of a longer form version of this, which is try to enjoy everyone who's healthy and everyone who can. Even if you don't feel like you'd like to feel, you can get up, put your feet on the ground, get up and walk to the kitchen. Your bathtub doesn't have a door on it. Mm-hmm. Like all that.
You don't have to wear socks and slippers all day, every day, just because your feet hurt so much.
Right. So
you can walk around.
Yeah. It's really hard to do that. Unfortunately, I mean, I think the key to life is that appreciation in the moment, and everyone takes it for granted. And then when they get an illness, I think they're in a weird way maybe the blessing of a situation like you, Brian, is a forced appreciation for when you feel good, and things you get to do, and whereas everyone else is just. It's a status quo. It's their default setting. I feel good. So what? Now I'm pissed because this omelet's cold.
No, you're right. We went to the beach on Saturday, and I was just so happy to be able to walk on the beach like without any help. I was legit happy about it. And then I was my heroic moment was like telling Christy like, "Hey, hand me the umbrella. I'll put that in the sand because I could do it. I couldn't do it, 2 weeks ago."
Well, and it sounds cliche, and I would never say it to somebody who's grieving or who's struggling, because you don't say things like this because it's obnoxious. But in those moments, you think, man, it could always be worse. It's that toggle switch of like, yes, everything that is around you sucks. Everything feels bad, but it could be worse. I know this is a one-to-one comparison, Brian, but we took the little guy to Big Bear over the weekend and for his birthday. And It was phenomenal. He got to be in a lake for the first time. He got to see mountains. It was amazing. Coming down the mountain should have been about 20 minutes. It took 2.5 hours to get down because there was an accident up ahead. 2.5 hours with a kid squirming in the back and everyone has to pee. And finally, when we were at our wit's end, I said, you know what? Thank God we're in a modern car. We're not afraid of anything overheating. It's 114. We're not afraid of being stuck on the side of the road. We're comfortable. We got music on. We'll be okay. It could always be worse.
Well, how many times you've been pissed off that you're stuck in traffic because they got the jaws of life out trying to get the person out of the car that's 200 yards in front of you. And it's like, yeah, that person's got real problems.
Yeah, who'd you rather be?
You're listening to the yacht rock in an air-conditioned vessel.
That's exactly right.
All right, so we got the Rotten Tomatoes game to play in this first part 2. Do you have a theme, Dawson?
Yeah, it's COVID part 2. A new list of actors who came down with the virus recently and otherwise.
Got an intro? Let's do it.
Listen to that noise. It's a high falsetto voice. It can only mean one thing, and you can feel it. Dawson names her flicks, and the gang makes their picks, guessing if it's rotten or fresh. If they guess it exactly, we'll get a bonus 5. It's the Rotten Tomatoes game. You know how we do it. Give me the Rotten Tomatoes game. Now it's time to play it.
So back in March, we dedicated a round of the Rotten Tomatoes game to famous people who contracted COVID-19. Well, it's been 5 months since then, and even though everyone on our original list has recovered, you never know who will be next. So on that very positive note, let's use this week's Rotten Tomatoes game to honor the latest group of celebrities that have fallen onto the couch. That is. We begin with the celebrity.
This theme keeps giving. We can do this for a long time.
Unfortunately, forever.
We'll begin with a celebrity who was recently on this very podcast talking about his coronavirus experience, Bryan Cranston. But many years before he contracted the virus, he appeared in a film that Adam and the Porcelain Punisher saw together in theaters.
That's right.
About a lovable, misunderstood monster. From 2014, Godzilla.
We're on the road. Were we in Minneapolis on the road?
Yes, we were. The Mall of America. It was for your President Me book tour.
Did we go out that night, like hang with some chicks at the bar and have too many drinks and you got sick or something?
If my wife is listening, no, but yes, that did happen.
Well, they kept sending over shots or something at whatever the bar was. Yeah, you don't want to disgrace them. All right. This is there's something that's nice about travel in that you're allowed to eat bad food and you're allowed to watch bad movies. You can't do that when you're at home, when you're on your home turf, let's say post-COVID. You're not really allowed to eat McDonald's or eat junk, fast food, whatever. But when you're traveling, you get to do what you want. And I find myself stuck in cities sometimes with nothing to do until a show that night or whatever. And we'd always go out and soak in the bad. So Cranston was in this is the beginning scene where his wife died, I think. It's always great. They take a movie that's not that great, but when a guy's a really good actor, man.
Well, I remember specifically being so frustrated when I saw this because Cranston is all over the trailer. Like, he's all over the trailer. And if you notice on the top right of the poster, it's and Bryan Cranston. He has a very small role in this movie, and that was a real bait and switch.
So the movie is not great. It's okay. I
hated this movie.
I think it's got some environmental theme that's the undercurrent of like don't fuck with nature kind of thing, which is good for a couple of points. All right. Nobody loved this movie, but it was certainly serviceable. And I'm going to say 58%.
Yeah, I went a little higher. I'm taking a chance here. I think this movie got decent reviews, even though it's garbage.
Damn.
I said six. Well, now I'm close to you. 67.
You said you hate it, so I shit.
I do hate it. I hate this fucking movie.
Adam, you've learned by now. Ignore that shit. I certainly do. So the only thing I know about this movie is the one year we went to Comic-Con, it was the Godzilla interactive experience, and that's all I have to go on. It was a barely fresh experience. I gave it a 61.
Godzilla is certified fresh at 75%.
75.
Now I know, and now I remember why I was incensed. This movie sucks.
And the people at 66. See, I had to listen to myself. I think this movie got a couple of environmental graft-on points.
It also got what we talk about sometimes was nerd points. Like all the nerds were so happy to see Godzilla back, and it's like, well, how about a good movie?
All
right, Lena Dunham recently tweeted about how she became sick back in March. She's mostly famous for her TV work, but back in 2012, she appeared briefly in Judd Apatow's film about what happens when you hit the big 4-0. Technically, it's a sequel to Knocked Up. Leslie Mann and Paul Rudd reprised their roles in 2012's This Is 40.
Never saw this.
It's one of the few Judd Apatow movies I have not seen.
It's a good movie that it's not in Judd's top 5 or 3 or whatever, but it's a solid movie. Like, it's thoughtful. It's kind of a little less, raunchy comedy and a little more introspective or something, but it's a good movie. And I think it was sort of needlessly panned. I don't think the critics liked it very much. I saw like a sneak preview of it or just a rented theater house to watch it, whatever, and it was good. Also, it also featured Graham Parker, so I liked it, but I don't think the critics liked it, and I think it was one of these things where he was being judged against himself, and and the 40-year-old virgin and that kind of stuff. So for that reason, I think I'm going back to Rotten at 58.
Ooh.
Going again.
Yeah. I thought I was playing it safe at 71. Again, I have not seen it.
Going back to my roots, too, I said 61 for Godzilla, 60 for This Is 40.
This Is 40 is rotten.
Damn it.
At 52%.
Oh, wow.
The people had it at 50. Yeah, it's worth a watch. It's Judd Apatow. It's all Paul Rudd and those guys, and it's good. It's not his top movie, but it's certainly
a huge
watchable.
Compliment to Judd Apatow. If it's decent, but it's nowhere near the best, then that just speaks to his catalog of work.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We got a game on now.
All right, Mel Gibson. You hear the name. Now it's all bad news headlines. But the man was a goddamn legend back in the 80s and 90s. Case in point.
He's a great filmmaker.
A film that took home 5 Academy Awards, including Best Director and Best Picture, to quote William Wallace. Coronavirus may take our lives, but it'll never take our freedom! Oh, wait a minute. From 1995, Braveheart.
Never saw it.
Oh, really? Sonny would love this fucking movie.
Yeah, it's epic.
Yeah, see it.
I don't think this is a spoiler at this point, but I'll just say the last few minutes are grotesque. Tough to watch. I don't think you would like the last few minutes.
It's pretty brutal, the battle scenes, but it's also got some humor in it. It's Mel Gibson. It's silly at times.
Well, Mel was fine with the critics at this point, and everyone loved this film, and it has to be high, but it's very violent. But is it into the this is sort of before everyone was woke and all that kind of stuff. So there's no baggage. There's no Mel baggage here. There was
no think pieces about why do we have to see another sweeping 3-hour movie about a white guy?
Right. There wasn't any of that. So, but did we make it into the 90s here? Or are we into the 80s? And I'm just going to settle on 90 even.
I went bold, 94. This was a huge movie.
I think I may have gone low, but I said 91.
Braveheart is certified fresh.
Yes.
At 78%.
Oh,
Wow. I am surprised.
And the people have it at 85. I wonder if some of these came in after Mel's hot tub dust up
Antics.
or something.
It's only 81 reviews.
May have a handful of these come in later
That's
and driven the score down a little, or just was it 78%?
It
No,
may have
it
been looked at as a little lightweight, I guess, by certain critics because, it's a modern-ish retelling of this period piece, but good movie.
All right, well, we got a game on here, people.
Now, earlier this summer, Madonna tested positive for coronavirus antibodies, suggesting she had the virus several weeks earlier while wrapping up her tour in Paris. But don't cry for her. She's been all over the world and spent a lot of time in Argentina filming her role as the iconic Eva Perón in the 1996 movie musical Evita.
Gina?
She may have won the Golden Globe for Best Actress. She was certainly nominated.
Thank you, Brian.
Gina, was it
Just
good?
saying.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
was it?
I mean, I don't mean to be the book was better, but like the musical, like if you see Patti LuPone, doing clips from Evita on YouTube, it'll blow your mind. Did this blow my mind? It did not, but it's a great musical.
I'll always remember this as a movie that an earthquake happened while I was in the theater. Only time it's ever happened.
Oh wow.
Oh, this starred Antonio Banderas as well?
He was like the de facto narrator or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, I remember watching. Guys, remember in the movie, the documentary Truth or Dare?
Oh yeah.
And remember that was in, I don't know, what was that, 91 or something like that, 92, somewhere in there. And there was that whole storyline about her being at a party and like Antonio Banderas being in there and she lusted after him, but he was married. Wasn't that Antonio Banderas?
I don't remember.
Antonio
I just remember her
Banderas.
saying that Sean Penn was the one who got away. That's all I remember.
Yeah, he is in Truth or Dare.
He's in Truth or Dare. So she, a few years earlier, was like, "Oh, who is that guy? I wish he was." And then I think she met his wife. Like he was at the thing with his wife, and she was all bummed out that she was there with the wife. So there was definitely some banging in a trailer on the set of this movie. There's goddamn right.
We should verify this, but I think the director, Alan Parker, just died. Didn't he just die like a week ago or something?
Oh yeah.
2 weeks ago?
Well, I don't want to look at my phone. It'll look like I'm cheating, but I think that did come up.
All right. I'm going to say I haven't seen it. I think that maybe they liked her performance, but they didn't really like the movie that much. But it's a strong woman and a lead and a beloved character, beloved human. So I have no idea, and I'm just going to say 73%.
Damn it. We're right there with each other. 71. Playing it safe.
78.
Evita is fresh.
Yes.
That's 63.
Oh.
That sounds
Wow,
about
this
right.
is a close game, and the
Yeah, it's not that good of a movie.
people have it at 68. Here we go.
And would you believe it? Speak of the devil, Evita co-star Antonio Banderas has also recently come forward to share the news that
Really?
he tested positive
I
for
just did a
coronavirus.
soliloquy on Antonio Banderas, and now that's our next movie guy?
Wow.
That's weird.
Antonio Banderas has worked with director Robert Rodriguez in several different films, including this one, that surprisingly spawned 3 sequels and a TV series. Taking a break from all the ultra-violence, 2001's Spy Kids.
Oh, I thought we were going the Desperado
Me
route.
too.
We're
I
going
wrote
Spy
down
Kids?
Desperado. Spy Kids was on heavy rotation in this house for a while with the kid.
2001.
I've actually never seen this.
This
Not
is the
bad.
first one. They did a few Spy Kids.
Oh, yeah. Spy Kids
man.
3D. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Is this
one
our
where they're in
last
a video
one?
game.
Oh, boy. This is tough because sometimes these movies, these kids' movies, like, it was nice. Give it a 78. And then sometimes a 39. So I have no damn idea here. I think this movie was considered a good kids movie, and I guess sometimes if it's a good kids movie, they'll. Oh boy, I don't know who's winning this game. I think we're all pretty knotted up. I think we're a few points off of one another, and as a matter of fact, I don't actually know what Gina's score is because I don't pay attention to her score normally. Just a force of reflex. I've always
Sure.
focused
you.
on.
Smart.
Yeah, I'm always focused.
I don't
on,
think they actually keep track.
But it feels like we're all about the same here. So I'm now this could be it's a lightweight movie, but sometimes lightweight, fluffy kids movies, they're 80% just because it worked, good. Hey, I recommend it to a 12-year-old. I have no idea, and for that reason, I'm going 64.
Well, this is where the game gets decided because I think I'm playing from behind, so I YOLO'd it and went 91.
Whoa. I split the difference. I've seen it. It's great. It's spawned a bunch of, spin-offs, but I feel like anymore, unless you're Disney or Pixar, you're not cracking 80. So I said 78.
Well, probably due to a groundbreaking and dynamic performance of one Cheech Marin. Spy Kids is certified fresh.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
At 93%.
Big time.
No. What? Do people have it at 46?
Oh my
YOLO,
God.
man.
What?
YOLO, man.
Hold on.
YOLO, man.
Hold on. How can it be more than twice of what the people have on a kids movie?
I had in the back of my head this was like a well-reviewed movie, but I've never seen it. I can't say it's good or bad.
I was going to watch Braveheart this weekend, but I'm looking at Spy Kids now.
Spy Kids.
Is there a kids movie where the critics have it at 93 and it's under 50% with the audience? That's a weird.
Maybe like some foreign, animated film or something.
Yeah.
But this is not that.
This is very weird.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Count them up, Dawson.
God damn.
Gina Grad. Congratulations. You made the podium with a score of 65.
All right.
Adam Carolla holding the lead for a long time in the game and then threw it out the window on the last movie. Your score, 74. And that's good for third place. Bald Bryan, is he inside or outside of that goalpost?
Feeling good.
His 91 got him close, but was it enough? Congratulations to our first place winner, Bald Bryan, 53.
YOLO, man.
Gotta go Bald.
At the end,
Bald or
at the
go home.
end of round 4, going into the last one, it was 45 me, 51 Bryan, and 50 Gina. So we were all
I was in last place.
knotted up. But when you said 90 something for Spy Kids, I was like, he just took himself right out of this. And also, I was thinking, we're only 4, 5, 6 points off of each other. Why go into the 90s?
I should have played it safer for sure.
But, Jesus Christ. Well, that's why I have to play the game. Here we
I
go.
got one thing to say.
YOLO, man.
Jesus Christ.
You know how we do it.
All right, let me hit Erin's over here. Shopping, no fun when you're worried about your credit. Erin's makes it quick and easy to shop for furniture, electronics, and appliances. Before you go to the store, head to apply.erins.com to discover your leasing power. You'll immediately know how much you're approved to lease to own. So they will let you know, and then you can go in with that kind of confidence. Apply from your phone or your computer, then visit your participating Erin store to shop for top brands like Samsung and GE and Ashley and HP as well. Free delivery and setup for all these lease agreements. Affordable, flexible payments. Pay little by little or until you own it. Oh, let's see. Max Pat, let me fix that up for a second. Pay little by little until you own it. Erin's. Easy, beautiful, affordable. It is Erin's, right, Dawson?
Approval is valid only at assigned store location. Approval is not guaranteed. Some restrictions apply.
All right, let's take a break, and we'll come back and do the news right after this.
Give me the news with Grad. Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina Grad. Trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drunk meltdowns. Need news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Gina, hold on. This just in. Alan Parker died 2.5 weeks ago.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Breaking news.
So you can tell when a role hasn't been written specifically for someone if you can swap them out with another person and that person is a different gender. Comedian Tig Notaro is replacing Chris D'Elia in Zack Snyder's zombie movie Army of the Dead. This is according to Variety.com. News of the recasting comes after allegations that D'Elia sexually harassed underage girls, women 16 years old, they're saying, according to these reports, accused D'Elia of misconduct, including sending them inappropriate and explicit messages online. And in the wake of these allegations, he was dropped by CAA, his agent. D'Elia has denied the accusations, calling it all legal and consensual. Army of the Dead had completed shooting already. Everything was in post-production before the pandemic hit in March. So the movie's going to undergo reshoots with green screens and CGI and other special effects to add Notaro to the production and take D'Elia out.
You know, one of probably the worst thing you can be accused of in today's current culture is being creepy. Like, you better to have an actual label of like arson, you know what I mean, than creepy. Like, I swear to God, if you were a celebrity in this town, like if you asked most publicists and agents and representatives, would you rather your client be convicted of arson or convicted in the court of a public opinion of being creepy? It'd be like, let me hear the arson story. What happened? Was he trying to collect insurance?
Any injuries?
Might be easier to spin.
Was this some business partner that screwed him? So he, like, because creepy is vague-ish and never goes away.
Like, you can't dodge it.
Feeling.
And you can't, when you're creepy, you can't pay your debt to society. You're just creepy. You know, it's an evergreen. You know what I mean? If you do a thing where it's like, I killed a man, but I paid my debt, now I'm out. I mean, everyone, we kind of like that story.
Yeah,
We can process it, yeah.
Yeah, we go, oh, look at him. All right. He read the Bible and he learned how to do pipe fitting when he was in the joint. Now he's out.
If you lead California, you can even say that we owe them a debt of gratitude.
Right. If you live in L.A., yeah.
Yeah.
So, but being creepy and being labeled as creepy is kind of a thing that doesn't really ever go away. You always think it, by the way, like if a guy, again, like if someone's convicted of a crime and then they serve their time and then they get out, we kind of like that story. It's like he's turning his life around, you know. But creepy is the crime that keeps giving. It never goes away. You don't do time. It doesn't have a beginning or a middle or an end. It's just creepy.
Well, and to your point, this is exactly what happened to Kevin Spacey. What was the Getty movie called, Brian?
For All the Money in the World.
Yeah, that was Donald. Who took over?
It was Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, I always get them confused. Kevin Spacey shot the whole movie, and then allegations came out, and he was replaced by Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, there's trailers that still exist with Spacey in them.
And Spacey never really has been formally charged with anything. Like there was
I don't think so.
There was the guy, and he was going to. He's like the waiter at the diner, but it turns out they found these texts where the mom and the girlfriend is like going to get money out of him or whatever. That got thrown out. Like, I don't know what even, like, this is the worst thing ever. You get accused of a bunch of stuff. You never really get your day in court, but you're still put out on Creepy Island with Chris D'Elia, and that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Forced to live out your days.
No.
And do we ever? And also, here's the other thing they don't really tell you about, and it's secretly why we love sports. It made me think of being out on an island. If you are a shutdown cornerback in the NFL, if you're just a guy who's just a shutdown corner where they can just put you out on that island with any receiver in the league and you can hold them to 3 receptions and 18 yards for that game, you know, there's always going to be a job for you on a team somewhere. You could get put out on Creepy Island for 10 minutes, but eventually you're coming back because a team is going to pick you up because you provide something that only 10 people on the planet can do, or maybe 6 people on the planet can do, or 3. You know, if you're a shutdown corner or whatever, you're a field goal kicker who's money from 55 yards every time. Like, we will find you a job. If you're a baseball player who hits, 385, in 41 home runs. We will find you a job. If you're Chris D'Elia, we'll get Tig Notaro to do it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, acting is one of those things where it's like, we'll get Plummer to do it. Like, there are some great actors, but even really good actors.
How many are irreplaceable?
Right.
Very few, if any.
Right.
Before this, I might have said Kevin Spacey.
Right. So all you have to do, so then what happens is you go, well, I had an idea for this guy. We're looking for a 40-year-old good-looking guy to play this part with some comedic chops. And they go, how about Chris D'Elia 5 years from now? And then you go, I didn't want to
open the can of worms.
Why even get into that? And then someone will go, I think he's innocent. Like, I think he's paid his debt to society. And you go,
Don't want that headache.
Yeah, but why do you want to go sell that to the studio? Like,
every interview at the junket's going to be about that.
There's not a 40-year-old white guy with some comedic chops that could do that role. And they're like, just go get Joel McHale.
Let's get Adam Ray.
Yeah, get Adam Ray. So there you go. That's unfortunately now the way it can go. Mm-hmm. So
back to Gina's original point, I love the movie Alien, and about getting recast genderlessly, or from gender switch to gender switch. I only just learned recently that the movie Alien, the reason everyone's named Ripley and Kane and Dallas and whatever is they were written without genders. There could have been a man in the lead. It ended up being Sigourney Weaver, but I don't think it was intended to be a woman. That's what I heard the screenwriter describe.
It's even more sort of interesting and progressive instead of saying this is going to be a woman, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a badass character. We'll deal with the rest later.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And in that movie, and then in Aliens, they had that tough Hispanic woman who was always doing chin-ups and carrying the shotgun. And then you had Bill... Oh, was it Bill Paxton was the whimpering. We're going to die.
Game over, man. Game over. What do we do now?
He doesn't get enough credit for that role and for Chet from Weird Science. I love him.
He is Chet.
I love him in both those roles.
If my room's okay, I won't kill him. I'll just hurt him real bad.
He was great.
He was in Michael Bihn's shadow in Aliens. Give him a break.
Yes, that's true. All right, let me hit True Niagen here. I've been taking True Niagen for quite some time now. God, I keep saying months, but we're coming on about half a year here. You get older, your body's experiencing a near 50% decline in NAD, which negatively affects the health of your cells. And if those cells get screwed up in your body, well, then the whole thing goes up. Dr.
Chat, please. That's not funny.
Chat. Drew's been taking True Niagen for quite some time as well. Lifestyle stressors like intense exercise, lack of sleep, stress on the immune system, overeating, lack of sleep. They all deplete NAD because the cells expend more energy to function. Backed by Nobel Prize winning scientists and clinical research, global regulatory approval, it is True Niagen. Supports cellular energy and defense. Visit TRUNIAGEN.com. I took mine about 2 hours ago as part of my morning routine. Use the code Adam and get $20 off any 3-month plus supply. It's good stuff. It's True Niagen. All right, Gina, what else?
You stewed, buttwad.
Oh, I love that.
Hi, Grammy. Hi, Grandpa.
I love that. I love when he opened the cabinet and saw us too catatonic. He was so funny, good. That whole thing.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
Served in a dirty
greasy
ashtray.
pork sandwich.
Yeah, and I liked it when he was yelling at his brother, and then he got a look at Kelly LeBrock or whoever that was, and he just looked at her and he goes, "I want to butter your muffin."
Lisa.
Yeah. Sorry.
So much to my horror and shock and awe, the hashtag boycott Dolly has been popping up on Twitter.
Oh, dear.
Since Dolly gave an interview to Entertainment Tonight Canada and answered a question about Black Lives Matter, about the movement. Now, this is crazy because most people know she is extremely apolitical in her public life. She it's not even that she sidesteps stuff. She will just say, like, I do not answer that. I don't talk politics. But she answered a question about the movement and kind of wove her way through it, but it ended up rubbing some people the wrong way. Here's the clip.
I think that everybody needs to express themselves however they feel they have to. I'm not out, like I said, I'm not out here to tell you what to do. I don't want you to tell me what to do, but I just do what my heart tells me to do. I ask God to direct me and lead me, and if I've got His direction, I don't have to worry too much about anything else. But I do understand people having to make themselves known and felt and seen. And of course, Black Lives Matter. Do we think our little white asses are the only ones that matter? No. Everybody matters.
Very
How incendiary.
So
I can see why everyone wants to boycott her.
This is her way of sort of weaving through a political conversation, and it really seemed to ignite something on Twitter. People saying boycott Dolly. I'm not buying her Christmas album. There seems to be someone who is the ringleader who a lot of people are supporting, and it's just very confusing.
The good news is I was confused. Like a few months ago, I was confused. Like, do these people really believe that X, Y, and Z, like that person's a racist, like everyone's a racist, or are they just talking shit? Like, do they believe it? And I now realize they're just talking shit. Mm-hmm. Nobody believes it anymore. I mean,
no one's genuinely upset at Dolly
Parton. There's nobody who started that, cancel Dolly hashtag that's legitimately upset, legitimately has a beef, is legitimately offended. There just isn't. The problem is they're going to weave that into every interview, and there's only one correct answer, which is I'm 100% down with Black Lives Matter. You cannot say, well, yeah, but I think all lives matter or something. You can't do any of that anymore. It's just boom. Black Lives Matter.
Just to clarify, the ones that are ordering for her boycott are the other side.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sorry if that wasn't clear. So this is why
Christ.
I thought this is the great equalizer, because I don't know who this is. It's a woman named Deanna Lorraine. She is, I guess, a correspondent for Newsmax and has a book called Taking Back America. She put up a tweet that said, Dolly Parton just said she supports Black Lives Matter. My heart is literally broken.
Literally.
Guess it's time to she had to go to the emergency room. Guess it's time to boycott Dolly. And that's sort of where the dominoes started falling.
Oh, this is that group. Jesus
Adam,
Christ.
do you think it was the more liberal side that was attacking her?
I thought that's who attacks when you do the Black Lives Matter, when you don't give a concise Black Lives Matter answer.
Well, and that makes sense
normally,
because of what we've seen. This is one of those exceptions that you just realize cancel culture is it becoming the great equalizer? It's crazy.
Well, what I was basing it on is kind of your Drew Breesy kind of thing where he goes, hey, I'm down with the cause, but I stand for the flag. And then he got chewed up and spat out.
Right.
Like
I think if she had said something like, sure, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, that would have upset the left. But the fact that she did?
Yeah.
I thought I misunderstood.
She said that was part of her quote.
It's also blurry and confusing now that I can't even tell what side is upset by the commentary.
Absolutely. She said, of course Black Lives Matter. Why do we think our little white asses are better? All lives matter. We all matter.
Yeah,
that was a candidate platitude. That was just she didn't take a strong stand.
No, that's what she does. She will say, I don't talk politics. But in another clip where they try to like give her a gotcha question because she had a restaurant at Dollywood called the Dixieland Stampede, which is like what's the thing in Buena Park with the jousting?
Oh,
medieval times.
Yes, medieval times. It's basically that, but like Civil War. Mm-hmm. And but it's like it's that same type of vibe. And people said Dixie is offensive and racist. And she had a quote saying, "I'm a businesswoman. Yeah. If I'm being told it's offensive now, we get rid of it. It's a business decision." And she's not afraid to say that.
Well, I guess the new world order is just unfortunately this is like silencing a lot of people. People just don't want to do interviews anymore.
Like you said, you didn't even know what side was mad at her. How do you get more middle of the road than that?
No, I was just playing that odds that normally it's the Black Lives Matter side that gets angry when you start watering their message down. And so I was just playing the odds, but forget it. It's not done. It's not worth talking anymore.
Yeah.
Who was it? It might have been Paul F. Tompkins, somebody. And, it's a joke, whatever. But it said something like on Twitter, imagine being so racist that you literally can't enjoy Dolly Parton anymore.
Yeah. I get it. Like, if you're out there and it's your job to comment, give commentary on social things or political things or whatever things. If you're Ben Shapiro, fine, talk in all the mics you want. If you're Dolly Parton or whoever, actor or actress anymore, if I was their publicist, I'd just go, don't do anything. You just don't go on that show. Like, don't talk into a microphone.
Well, and talk about, fringe audience. The people that go to see her shows are very, very conservative and drag queens. And me and my
really?
friends. Oh,
That's
yeah, and
interesting.
she knows that. She goes, it's people from her hometown of Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and it's all the drag queens that show up looking like her.
She's
saying,
got to
"We
walk a
love you."
tightrope.
Yes, exactly. And she's the most aware of that.
I don't know if we'll ever see this in our lifetimes or now, nowadays, but it would get trending if some celebrity was asked a question like that and their answer was, their answer was basically, look, I have thoughts, but frankly, it's too hot either way. So I'd rather not even express them and risk my career.
And I think we're getting to that point, which is, I don't know. Like I literally talk to guys who run companies who do like media stuff, and they're just like, I don't even know what to say anymore. Like the young folks have taken over, and I'm scared to talk. Like everyone is just literally freaked out to talk. It's not. It's funny. Like I've always said I've been this broken record that said like, not all progress is good. Like, not all evolution is good. Like, we're evolving into this place where everyone has a voice. Really? Where everyone has a voice? Right. Or maybe no one has a voice. Like, or some people have some voices. Like, this is not an evolution. This is not progress. This thing where we're going to cancel everybody. It's also kind of...
It's the anti-progress, getting rid
of
everybody.
And it's... It's too easy to do. Well, I mean, with the internet. Yeah,
I agree. I think I made the point here on this very show that the curse of social media is that we've given everyone back in the day, you had to be James Baldwin to have a platform, like, eloquent and have some thoughts and a point. Nowadays, everyone's got a platform. It might be small, but it's, your platform goes to the world.
Well, it's funny.
You haven't earned it. You know what I'm saying?
It's a two-part thing. It's everyone has a platform, and B, businesses are scared shitless. So the second 5 of these people, these nudniks, get together with their non-platform and create a little bit of a platform, and then they want to boycott, fill in the blank, the business will immediately fold. They'll immediately fire this person or pull advertising off that. They'll go, look, I don't care if it's 8 people all working out of one trailer home. I'm out. That's how business. So it's kind of both parts. You kind of need Hollywood or a business or whomever to kind of go, forget it. I'm not working with that guy anymore, or I'm going to fire him, or they're going to pull their advertising. And then you take these relatively few people and you give them this huge stick now. Now they do mean something. They are weaponized. Yes, Brian.
I was going to say the businesses will do all of that, and they'll devote a sizable amount of resources to like replying or fighting, but not even fighting back, just reacting. I know this because Christie's business, her company, has a crisis division that handles, when there's CEO has caught in a scandal or someone gets sick off the food. God knows why. It could be anything. But it's a crisis. Or they are thriving because everyone is essentially every business is essentially going through a crisis right now.
The only reason the rest of us know what a crisis manager is because that's the one that ratted out the Papa John's guy.
That's right. It was them.
All right, let's do one more.
It was not them.
Gina Gran.
Well, let's do this because it's breaking as we record this. So 2 arrests have been made in a 2002 murder of Run DMC's Jam Master Jay, according to ABC News. And this just came through my phone before we started. Carl Jordan and Ronald Washington have been charged with the murder of the pioneering rapper born Jason Mizell while engaged in cocaine trafficking. This is according to an indictment unsealed in the Eastern District of New York that also charged the 2 with drug offenses. Washington, one of the guys, Ronald Washington, is currently imprisoned on a prior robbery case. Jordan will be arraigned today. Mizell was murdered in Hollis, Queens, October 30th, 2002. shot at point blank range in the head with a .40 caliber handgun. He was 37.
Jesus.
And this is 18 years old.
So he was just executed.
Yeah.
I kind of remember the story. It's funny, the two guys that are being accused of it have the world's whitest first names and the world's blackest last names. So my ethnic wheel is spinning in my head now.
We need to recalibrate you.
Yes.
Carl and Ronald.
Carl and Ronald, but then the last names are good, right?
Jordan and Washington.
Couple of Beach Boys.
Yeah. Well, until you get to the last name. So I don't remember. Was this a big story when it happened? I guess it kind of was. And
well, yeah, I mean, the fact that it was a murder,
He was a pioneer of a certain type of, popular music.
And was the deal that he was involved with the drug trafficking?
This is literally all I can find right now. This is just hot off the presses. I'm sure we're going to find out way more, but it says while engaged in cocaine trafficking.
I wonder why it took so
he might
long.
have been caught up in some stuff.
Somebody must have said something. I mean, why was there nothing for so long?
Or, I mean, I am talking out my ass. This might be a Mark Garagos question, but if Washington's currently already in prison, maybe confessing gave him a shorter sentence. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's always. I like I said, I grew up watching cop shows, and they just wrap the whole thing up in a 60-minute episode.
Not an 18-year episode.
Well, when you watch real crime shows, it's always the same story. It's like, we had nothing, the case went cold, and there was nothing. And then 4 years later, my phone rang, and there was somebody who said they knew everything. So I talked to them, and now we've solved the case. But it's like, it's never you. In every show I ever saw, it was all the footwork and the gumshoeing and all the diligence. Like, I'm not going to rest until I take this case down. Oh, they rest all the time. The one thing I've realized is the detectives rest and the cops on the street have plenty of time for backup. Those were the two things. I thought it was the opposite. I thought it was never going to rest. They also would argue with their commanding officer when they wanted to take the case away. I'm giving this case to Kowalski. God damn it.
Over my dead body.
That's my collar.
Right. Between stakeouts and cold cases, these fucking guys ever work?
I know. All right. Let me hit.
The New York Times says prosecutors claim that the two had executed Mr. Mizell after he sought to exclude them from a multi-kilogram, multi-state narcotics transaction in July of 2002, just months before the murder. The court papers say that Mr. Mizell had received about 10 kilos of cocaine on consignment from a supplier in Maryland.
Can't you make enough money just being in Run DMC?
Yeah, that's mailbox money.
There's a lot of these stories in sports, like, the guy was a starting cornerback for the Rams, but he was caught with 70 pounds of weed in the trunk. It's like, you have a good job. There's good jobs. Was it Nate Newton? There was a Dallas Cowboys offensive lineman, I think
it was,
who did the same thing. It's like, you guys are all-stars. You're making good money. That should be enough. You're in Run DMC. What do we have this side business here? All right.
Yeah, so those two guys were supposed to be his partners, and supposedly he cut them out after an argument.
That's not nice.
That's not nice. All right, let me hit Madison Reed Mister. Madison Reed Mister. It's a gray blending natural color for your hair and your beard. Getting a little longer in the tooth. You get a little the gray around the temples, or maybe it's around the beard. You don't have that shoe polish look. You want a little more pepper and a little less salt. How about that? Madison Reed Mister makes it easy to find the color. You can match it on their website. Lynette loves this stuff too. Obviously, Madison Reed, they have for the ladies, but they perfected it also for the men as well. You get the little kit, put the gloves on, apply the color gel, just sort of run it through your hands and run it through your hair, and then you do the activator, just a dollop on your hands, just kind of rub it together. I've done it. It's super easy, and then just rinse it off. Let it sit for 10 minutes and rinse it off. It is Madison Reed Mister, right, Dawson?
Go to MadisonReedMister.com. That's MadisonReedMR.com, and use code Carolla for 10% off plus free shipping on your first box. Again, that's code Carolla.
All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
I don't have it ready. I'm going to do it in post.
Okay. All right. Erin Brockovich is coming in here in the flesh. She's going to be in here in a second. Of course, you know her from, I think, Julia Roberts won the Academy Award for portraying her.
Fantastic.
And the movie was named after her. Anyway, it's got lots of good cases, lots of good stuff coming on. I'll do a one-on-one with her, and I'll bid adieu to Bald and Gina, and we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with Erin Brockovich right after this.
The Adam Carolla Show presents Erin Brockovich's birthday cocktail party for June 22nd. Let's see who's here. NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner. MMA fighter Randy Couture. One of the greatest basketball players ever, Pistol Pete Maravich. Cyndi Lauper's here, and she just wants to have fun. Elizabeth Warren showed up to make sure no one has any fun. Chris Christopherson, Carson Daly, and Meryl Streep. Enjoy your party, Erin. Now back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Erin Brockovich is here, maybe the leader in the clubhouse with the birthday party, cocktail party game. That was pretty good.
That would be a fun group to get together.
Oh yeah, mine's pretty weak, right? Max,
I thought that was kind of cool. Some of them I knew, some I didn't.
Podcast Superman's Not Coming. It launches this Friday on Podcast One and Apple Podcasts as well. Celebrates everyday people who realize that they have to rise up and join in the fight. So what do you mean by that? When we know, let me just set the table with you. You guys all saw the movie. I think you know who Erin is.
Maybe not.
I don't know that people know you won Miss Pacific Coast Beauty Pageant in 1981, and you grew up in Lawrence, Kansas, and your dad was a professional football player?
He was going to go pro. He was a big KU ball player. It was Redskins, I think, drafted him.
And your mom is a journalist,
yes.
So the table is set for both, kind of many of the things you do. And how did, for you got into a car accident and met the attorney who represented you, and that's kind of your entree into this?
Oh, how the movie came about?
Well, no, how you came about.
How did I come about?
Yeah.
You know, that's a great question that I've had to look back on my own life to figure out how I came about. Probably because at the beginning of my life, I was faced with obstacles. I have a learning disability and I'm a dyslexic. Nobody understood anything about it.
Is that the learning disability, being dyslexic?
Yeah, it's called dyslexia. And we're certainly smart enough. We code and comprehend differently. But because something's different, suddenly you're labeled inferior or you're this or you're that. And I was always put into a box, which I don't like to be in. People thought I was dyslexic too, and I had to sadly inform them that I don't know how to read. And they were like, "But you're dyslexic, right?" And I'm like, "I wish I was dyslexic. Yeah.
Like, I got tested for that shit. I'm not. I didn't learn how to read when I was young."
And, you know, at early on, we get labeled and perceived and judged and all this and that. And so I quickly learned to fight my way out of a box and got my way through school and into my life and the beauty pageants and moved to California and all that fun stuff. I got married. That was a mistake. But
my
that's another
birthday
story.
party's got Todd Bridges from The Facts of Life
Right.
and Andre 3000, so it's not as good as your
I've had
party.
a good birthday party.
Yes, compared to mine, yes.
We'll have to invite you to our birthday party. So
you're in Kansas, and so how did it manifest itself then? This dyslexia. You weren't ever tested for it, or were you?
Not till later.
So
they knew
right.
It was definitely in the early years a learning disability. So it was just starting to do things backwards, actually just starting to do something different that no one could figure out. Why is she doing that? God forbid she's doing it because that's the way she sees it, or she sees it but can't understand it, in writing. So I'm very visual and auditory, and I can hear everything, place it in my mind, and I know it. But then if I read it, how it's translated back, doesn't always come out that way, especially if I'm doing a written test.
Right.
I had a teacher that saved me because she allowed me to be that. She went out of the box and said, I know you know, so I'm going to give you your test orally instead of written.
Oh, really?
And she did it every semester, for finals, exams, pop quizzes, everything. And I knew everything. She gave me an A+ in class. And what that did for not only my GPA, but my self-esteem was huge. And I got married, divorced. I have to look back on all my mishaps. But here's the thing. Everybody fucks up. Nobody's perfect. And I've accepted that about myself. And when I went and started my work in Hinckley, it was all these things that I thought would define me or not define me about who I was growing up. In this town, Hinckley, California, they were like me. I was like them. They were experiencing the same thing. They would be told, like, what you see isn't real. That can't be possible. You shouldn't say anything. You're not a doctor. You're not a lawyer. You're not a scientist. And all these things just swirled around me. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm standing right here. I see what's happening. And I chose to speak out about it, even though I was perceived as the least likely person to do that. So I think sometimes what frustrates me, and I see in these communities, is they're not being heard. They feel they're not being heard or they're not being seen. And because it doesn't go with some other agenda, it's either discounted or you're crazy or this or that. Sometimes it feels like a major gaslighting going on.
I think the last time we spoke, you're working on...
It was a long time ago.
...behalf of Beverly Hills High students and what's going on in their, groundwater or whatever lurks beneath.
It was the oil derrick.
Yeah, there's an oil derrick, but people don't understand that Beverly Hills High School has an oil derrick on their property.
They've removed it.
Oh, they did? What year did they remove it?
Maybe about 5 years ago. They actually came back to me recently because now that lawsuit was settled. People are still having issues. The oil derrick, had its own fair share of issues. They've removed it, but underneath they have a huge methane problem. And now they're taking the subway directly underneath Beverly Hills High. So they have this huge concern with the dig and all that methane and pressure. What if it blows? So... to continue in a different way, but the original lawsuit settled. We still have people reporting that, they went to school and during these years, there was a large number of kids that came down with thyroid disease.
Why was it during certain years when the derrick has been there since the beginning? How long has it been?
It's a long time. It could have had a lot to do. First of all, Sempra Energy sits right next door, and we knew they had a big Chrome 6 problem, so that could be it. But at the time, that wasn't brought to the light. And
it's been removed July 2017, so it's only been 3 years.
I was just say 5. That's what I thought was 5 or 6. 4. So it's been recent, but they finally did that. 3.
Right.
Oh, that's right. It's only.
Anyway.
Is 2020 going to even count?
I don't know. I got to tell you, I'm having trouble keeping track of time in 2020. I
think we're 2019.
I sat around the other day. Somebody sent me a clip of me doing the Alec Baldwin roast. And I was like, when the hell was that Alec Baldwin roast on Comedy Central? And I was like, I think it was a year ago, but I have no concept of time now for some reason.
Oh, you're not alone on that. I feel like it's Groundhog's Day, and I wake up and I'm like, where am I? What day it is? I mean, literally.
Yeah. I would go September 2019, but I had to really think about it a long time because I realized it's just sort of...
What a lost year.
Yeah, everything's kind of melting or bleeding into one or the other.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
But so the podcast, sorry, Superman's not coming.
Well, and that's what we started about. I've learned, this is my Wizard of Oz story. We're all on a journey. And through that process, I don't know if we got comfortable, if we got complacent, if we bought the Kool-Aid, if we shut up. I'm not sure what was going on, but I think there was a moment, where we're kind of waking up to whatever it is we thought was happening or somebody was going to fix or take care of it for us isn't happening. So Superman's not coming. And I don't want us to be shocked by that. I work in these communities all the time. But you know what? I don't know why we need Superman when we're here. The people can still take action and do things. And especially as an individual, collectively in the community, I encourage people to get to city council. Great things go on there. Half the time, city council doesn't even know what's going on. So you go in and enlighten them that we can make progress and changes.
Yeah.
Without waiting for Superman to come rescue us, because he and Prince Charming are not coming.
I look around at the way we run things, like in Los Angeles especially, or just in Glendale or Burbank or whatever, and I see these wild inefficiencies. and it's not. It's sort of criminal. It's like negligence. It's not really. It's not intent. It's just we don't run things right, and it makes me nervous. Like it makes me wonder. I'm obsessed with landscaping and like sort of the freeways and the ramps and the side of the freeway and everything, how we handle it. And like there's one behind us 150 feet and they planted some trees and they got the sprinklers, but it's just growing weeds everywhere. And it's like, you need to put some ground cover down, some cloth down so the weeds won't push through. You got to put some gravel on top of it. You got to do what they do in Phoenix or Vegas or whatever. You have to do something. And when I look at that, I go, man, we're dumb and we're slow and we're expensive and we're inefficient and we don't care. And when I look at the freeway, the side of the freeway, I go, I bet you all that is being transferred into the schools, into the power grid, into everything. Like this is indicative of this entire system and I know it doesn't sound like a cause, the side of the freeway, but what I'm saying is it's like when you see a person driving down the street and their car's a mess and there's a bunch of newspapers on their dashboard and you know that person lives in a shitty apartment that's a mess as well. There's a bunch of fucking cats and it's a dump, right? So it's a little indicator of like how they run their life. You don't see them in their car and go, okay, but I bet that person returns a very neat home that's very pristine and they recycle. You go, I'd fucking hate to sleep on that guy's sofa, right? And I feel the same way with LA when I look at the sides of the freeway. Yeah. And if you travel around the country and just look at the sides of the freeway, you can tell how the city runs, like where they're at. And I'm always frightened by Los Angeles.
Well, this is where I encourage people, and I have seen it, and we share in my book, Getting Ready to Come Out, Superman's Not Coming, and on the podcast, everyday people. We have this idea you have to be this or that to be a city council, or a mayor, or a governor, or anything, or a part of a party. People are just rising up, and they're acting. They're responding to something and not just, again, waiting for something else to fix it. It's a fascinating situation when you get into city council. Oftentimes they're sitting in there talking to themselves. And things like landscape and that happens right there in city council. And so I encourage people to go do something about that. I mean, I've seen my own neighborhood do that and get something done. Is just not taking it, I don't even want to say for granted. I don't know, again, if we were taught this way, that this is how it's going to be. This has been going on for decades. The definition of doing the same thing over and over again is insanity. That's what we're doing. How we shift. I don't know if COVID's given us this moment, just smacked us in the face, where we're going to take this pause and we're all taking a look around. I think we are. And we're waking up to stuff. And where you can get involved or make that move to make a change and not wait for a governor or a mayor or whatever's going to trickle down for the top. I run around all day long looking for whoever they are that do all this. But that we have to be involved, not just a fan on the sideline.
No, I've realized that when I've talked to a couple of governmental types or mayors or governors or whatever, they oftentimes don't know what I'm talking about when I'm asking them about some of this stuff. They're like, what do you mean?
What are you talking about? I didn't know that was going on.
I'm like, why don't you know what's going on? And the answer is they don't. So
because we don't show up. One of the best things that ever happened that we did was the carousel trek in Carson, California, right here in our own backyard. Had Shell oil and that big, huge tank farm leaked and all the crude was coming up in the neighborhood's yards.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a recent thing, right? Or
well, it settled recently, but recent enough. But it wasn't. It was a long haul. It'd been going on easily for 7 years. City Council was the one that had the swipe of a pen to initiate a cleanup action right there in their own backyard. So we went down to the city council meeting, and of course, they don't know what's going on. They have their conversation, and they're like, well, if nobody has any other questions, and we like looking around, we're the only two in the room, we'll adjourn. We said, oh, well, we have some people from the carousel track that came in, and we bust them in. And there was 1,000 of them.
Wow.
And they had to wait for every one of those people to get into the chambers and fill it up, and they all brought a stuffed guinea pig. And attached to it, they wrote their story of what was happening to them in their neighborhood. And we were in chambers well into the night. And they left their piles of guinea pigs in the middle of the room. And I'm not exaggerating. It was 3 feet high by 4 feet wide. And the city council, the look on their face, they didn't know. But I'll tell you what happened the next morning. We had a cleanup order. We need to show up.
Yeah, I agree. I'm guilty. I just drive around and complain. I never show up anywhere.
Oh, show up. You'll get something done.
You know.
And then I'll have you on my podcast. Superman's not coming, but Adam Carolla's here.
You know, my problem is every time I turn on one of those Santa Monica City Council meetings, they got the crazy guy, 71. He's got all the buttons on his head. So, I'm a veteran of the Korean conflict. And there's been a dumpster in front of my apartment for 7 weeks now. And the permit is expired. I'm like, oh, I got to join this cast of kooks. That's what I feel like. I feel like I'm going to turn into the guy with the buttons all over his vest, standing there, you know, reclaiming my time.
Right. And see, we were talking about that a minute ago.
You're right. Max Spada, I'm going to get these goddamn freeway off-ramps.
There you go, Adam Carolla.
It's driving me insane.
Who needs Superman when you've got frickin' Adam Carolla?
And what pictures are you going to text me?
That's right. I take pictures and I text them.
We'll put you out there in your case.
Well, it's like this one has just had a truck and plumbing fittings and garbage just sitting on a pile of dirt for like 8 years. And it's like I just keep looking at it. And the thing that's funny is I came here on Saturday and there's a warehouse that was right up the street. And they just completely transformed it in 10 minutes. And when I came on Saturday, they were planting and putting the mulch down and doing all this stuff. And it's like boom, 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 like done, done, and done. And then you leave it to the city, and it's like same pile of dirt been sitting there for 10 years. So,
well, you know, I even think that sometimes the city sits around thinking, you know, the state will give them the funding, and then the state sits around and thinks we don't have funding, and then the federal will give them funding, and we're actually here. And it's amazing when you go in there and actually bust their balls or you get that research done and put them to that financial moment where they're like going, oh, I don't know, maybe you're right. That happens. I talk about that in my book that's coming out. And we talk about it on Superman's Not Coming. It's fascinating to listen to these people's stories. And oftentimes, Adam, it's one pissed off mom.
Yeah, they seem to... that seems to be the new world order where they get the shit done.
Yeah.
One motivated, unhappy camper who seems to be able to get it done.
Or she's got a sick kid. And, you know, they're pretty good at organizing each other. So, you know, when they become 1 and then 5 and then 50 and 5,000, let me tell you what, when you have a group of 50,000, and I've been around that angry women, they turn into logical in a way. They're using their common sense, but strategic voice.
Yeah.
So that they're heard.
Well,
and they actually get shit done.
It's an interesting point that you may or probably won't agree with, but when I see like the Million Women's March where they put on the pussy hats and go out and march, I'm like, what do you want to get done? Like, you're all just pouring out, and you got all the usual celebrities, and everyone's got a bullhorn, and then 5 o'clock hits, and everyone just goes home. And I'm like, I want to know what your message is. Give me a list, a punch list of things you want to get accomplished. The general sort of marching for the kind of vagary of women's rights doesn't feel... It doesn't feel focused enough to me, or a lot of marches. I'm that way basically with Black Lives Matter, too. It's like, give me a list of stuff you want. Let's see if we can get it done. Just the general marching, which we do a lot of in this country, especially these days. I just feel like that just begats more marches. I don't know that I'd like to see a shopping list of things you want to get done versus the general heading out. Like, oh, we want to solve inequality, you know, and it's like, it's so vague, or women's rights. Like, it feels too vague. The stuff with the city council feels a little more laser focused to me.
On that issue, and I understand what you're saying because a lot of people say that to me as well. And people get frustrated because they're not being heard. And in order for us to be heard, I think it is also how you present yourself. And we work on that in communities. What is your cause? We could all have 10 causes, right? But right now, what is it you're going to focus on? Ladies of Hannibal, Missouri, specifically lead. We all saw what happened with lead in the water in Flint.
Right.
We went out there and organized with them, and it becomes a little bit of a structure. Excuse me. And we explained to them how they got lead in their water. It was adding ammonia to the system. We won't get into that right now. But they're like, okay, well, that's not going to be okay. We want to learn more. So they became 1 and then 5 and 10 and 15 because they were having children with problems from being exposed to lead in the water. So they got pretty organized, specific to your point. What is your cause? Right now, it is no ammonia in the water. They stayed focused on the one cause. They didn't go here. They didn't go there. They educated the entire town. They wanted to do more. And we encouraged them to get involved at local level city council. One of the mothers ran, and she won.
Right.
And so now she's organized. She's organized her community. She put a referendum out on a ballot. Do you want ammonia in your drinking water? Yes or no? To the people. They all said no. Well, then it became a law. But the state and them got into a lawsuit with each other that took 2 years. However, she stayed, to your point, on point, to the message, to the cause, driving it home to the end. And in March of 2020, they turned the ammonia feed off, and Hannibal now has lead-free water.
Yeah, what I'm saying is when people go justice for all, I'm like, that's way too vague. I need you to get a little more specific with what you're trying to do. Although, look, I'm not going to argue with justice for all, but I don't know that that's solvable.
Being heard goes both ways. And I want to hear you, but you need to tell me what it is I need to hear specifically on an issue. And there could be 5. Well, we talk about that in Superman's Not Coming. So you got a big elephant in the room, right? How are you going to get it out? Not all at once. You're just going to have to take that cause and piece and get it done. And I think that's something that's really important. Get it done. Yeah. Don't get halfway and stop, and then the problem becomes a problem 10 years later on top of 100 other problems.
Well, it's interesting.
Follow through.
I've talked to people about this, and it's something I've been thinking about and talking about, which is...
you're going to run for office?
No, the process. There's people that like the process, and then there's the people who are like results oriented. Like I know people just want to talk about the same thing over and over again, and then there's the people that want to just start digging. Like it is. It's kind of, I always kind of picture it like in The Great Escape. They had to dig a tunnel to get out of the prison camp. And they dig a tunnel, and then what would they do with all the excess dirt? Each guy would like walk out with a cup full of it, sort of, and he'd dump it down his trouser legs, and he'd kind of like shake his foot, and just a little bit, the cup of dirt would spill out up on the top, top side. And I was like, that's how you solve these problems. It's not one big scoop of dirt. It's just a kind of a chipping away. It's a process, but you blink your eyes. Time passes quickly, and you've got a tunnel to freedom. But so many people just want to plan the tunnel and talk about the tunnel, and they don't want to get in and start digging that tunnel. And there's a lot of them out there.
There are, and sometimes that's part of the process is to cathart and just put it out there. But somebody else is going to hear it.
It's the beginning part of the process, but it's not the middle.
And somebody else will pick that up, and they'll drive it home. I think so. Part of just how I visualize this is a Super Bowl game. And for that individual, you need to be prepared coming into the game that you're going to get pushed around a little. You're going to drop the ball. You might not get where you want right away. And so if you don't know that coming in, when you get out there, and you pick up the ball and you get knocked down. Imagine we were watching a Super Bowl and you threw the ball on the field and walked off. You can just get booed out of stage.
Right.
Pick the ball back up. Stay in the game. And so what if you fail once? So many times we get in our own damn way of getting anything done because I look stupid and I'm such a failure. Who cares? Pick that ball up, get back in the game, and maybe next time you're going to rush 60 yards.
Well, you have the unique perspective and the training.
Wisdom. Go ahead and say it. I'm 60 now.
No. What I'm saying is beginning, middle, and end. You've done so many cases, you've seen so much fixed, some of these things that seem insurmountable or Herculean, and you went, no, here's how you do it. You just start pecking away. And I've done it too. I just came out with my 5th book. So if you told me to write a 6th book, I wouldn't go, I don't know, man, that's too much. I'd go, all right, I'll write my 6th book. You do enough documentaries, you write enough books, you do enough stuff. You realize, I have the experience of beginning, middle, and end. Beginning, middle, and end. You have an experience of beginning, middle, and end. So many people don't really have that. They just experience the middle. They don't have that, and it's something that's not talked about. It's not preached. Politicians don't talk about it, and school teachers don't talk about it. But if I was to give my kids a quality, it'd be beginning, I should write a book, or I should get lead out of the water in this town in Michigan, or I should make a documentary, or I should build a barn, or whatever your thing is. And then middle, I'm now executing this, and I'm on the New York Times bestseller list, or we get a big check from the gas company, or whatever it is. To have that, then experience a beginning, middle, and end. And then when you go on to your next thing that would be overwhelming to everyone else, you go, I've done this. Well, and you have that experience.
But, it goes back to my mom. And again, because my mom was a cheerleader, maybe I've just become a cheerleader. I get like that, but it's exciting to want to, freaking get something done and to follow through on it. And she always told me, when the going gets tough, get going. It's really true. But she'd say you have to have your stick-to-itiveness. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Well, it's amazing. It's definition noun, propensity to follow through, dogged determination, born of obligation, persistence, and stubbornness. And I'm like, wow. Oh, that's all you had to say to me. I'm determined, I'm dogged, I'm persistent. And that word, she told me, you're not born with it. You have to develop the habit of persevering, even when you don't want to, and it'd be easier to give up. Life will require that you have stick-to-itiveness, and that is going to be required of us right now. You start it, finish it to the end of the goal, and that stick-to-itiveness, but it's what you go through that middle process that's invaluable that gets you to the end.
I know so many people that just have one big middle. They don't really have the end. I've noticed that the difference. You gotta have the end. You gotta get the have and the have-nots. I noticed just this perpetual middle, and I grew up around it, and it was in my own family, and it was certainly in my neighborhoods, and it was like the guy who was restoring the Mustang, and you ran into him 5 years ago, and he's like, I'm working on the Mustang, and then you run into him 5 years later, I'm still working on that, and it never got done. It was just one big middle, and I'm going to write a book, or I want to start my own business, or whatever. And when I started hanging around guys like Jimmy Kimmel, they had a beginning, middle, and end. It was like, we want to do a TV show. We want to do a prank puppet show. We want to do a puppet show and prank phone calls. And it was like, boom, here we go. Beginning, middle, end. Beginning, middle, end. Like everything was beginning, middle, end. And all the other people I knew from like the old neighborhood, it was one big perpetual, like, I'd even say to my mom, like, your car's parked out on the driveway and it's baking out in the sun and it's the San Fernando Valley and it's so brutal hot. And she's like, we're going to do a carport, to put it under the carport where it gets some shadow. But it never did it. They never would do it. Would talk about it a lot, would wish they had it a lot, would give reasons why today's not a good day to get started on it, but they just never squeeze the trigger. And I knew so many of those people, and I still do, and life for them is sort of like purgatory, just one big middle. Mm-hmm. And the blessing is the beginning, middle, and end part. The middle's always boring, takes a long time.
It is, and that's where we can, this is boring, I don't want to do it. Well, then, this takes me back, makes me think of what I talk about, and I do a ton of keynote speaking. My RAM program, Realize, Assess, and Motivate. Not someone else, but yourself. Let's just back all this up right to it. It's going to be about, who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you? And realize that person. Assess that. If there is something you don't like about yourself, get over it. Change it. Fix it.
Give
Do
us RAM.
something.
Give us our acronym of RAM. You're like the Gary Busey of our time.
RAM.
Busey does it with like 13 syllable words. Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay. Earn. All right, sorry. Go ahead. RAM. He does the craziest ones. RAM
I have
is
a bunch of realize, assess, and motivation of oneself. Become a RAM. Look at a RAM. They're pretty damn confident.
Yes.
Even if you're not, don't waver, be it. And realize who you are. And that starts with assessing who you are. And then none of us are good at everything. Come on. So if you have something, change it.
Let's talk about the assessment part, because I just feel like there are people who are constantly late. Everyone in their life knows they're late, so they start changing the times. Like they'll tell them the movie starts at 8 instead of 8:30 just to try to get them there earlier and stuff like that, or the restaurant, whatever it is. But that one person still doesn't really know that they're a late person, and they argue with everybody all the time.
Well,
like,
I know them.
We all know them. What is that thing where you don't assess who you are, your weakness? Look, nobody gets out of high school unscathed. I mean, for the most part.
Or anything else.
Or anything else. But like when I was 19, I was like, you have no skills. You have no education. There's no reason why you're ever going to be successful. You need to fix a bunch of things in order to have some success in your life. And it's going to be a full-time job fixing these things. But I was honest about my assessment. I didn't think I was a bad person. I was just like, you lack a bunch of skills that one would need to be a successful person. So,
but you have motivation.
Let's work on that.
You have motivation. That's the M part. And we all know people who are very talented and unsuccessful, and we know people who are untalented but somehow became successful. And that comes from the motivation inside yourself. And listen, you have, like my mom always taught me, you have to stick to it. We're not born with these things. You really have to put your mind to it, your heart to it. Stop buying everybody else's bullshit of who you are or aren't supposed to be, and decide that for yourself and do it.
The most successful.
Motivation is quite key.
Some of the most successful people I know are not amongst the most talented people I know. They're just focused. Do you have some Gary Busey acronyms?
I do.
Be RAM.
Well, now we can do RAM. You got others.
Oh, yeah. Well, logic,
Gary's
leverage,
got
loyalty,
others
love.
as well. Wait, tell me that. There's no such thing as a person that has one. You either have zero or you have a kit and caboodle. What are Gary's, Chris?
All right, we have romance. Relying on magnificent and necessary compatible energy.
Puss.
We have relationship. Really excited love affair till it's over. Now sobriety hangs in peril.
See, when you're unemployable as an actor, this is what you have time to do.
Bully, big, ugly, loud loser Yahoo. And freedom, facing real exciting energy developing out of miracles.
Yeah, that's a tough one to commit to memory.
He does have some.
Erin, you got
well, you know,
a second one?
It's always, we can sit around all day long and blame everybody for something, but at the end of the day, you're looking for someone to make you who you are. That's up to you. Just look at yourself in the mirror and just, let's get busy doing it. My other one, logic, leverage, loyalty, love. Logic is common sense.
Mm-hmm.
We're told not to use that shit. And I think actually talking to you, you will use your common sense. I do. But oftentimes we're told that you don't pay attention to that. That's nothing more than an instinct that sits in your gut, like I had growing up in Kansas on a day that you knew there was going to be thunderstorms. It was 100 degrees and the air was oppressive and you could see the thunderheads building and you see the little tornado on the bottom of the TV screen, tornado watch, tornado warning. I never bothered to call the Weather Channel and ask, well, do you think it's going to be an F3 or an F4 coming? Because I don't give a shit. I know my common sense tells me get to safety. We oftentimes disregard that, or we think somebody else is going to tell us how to do it. So that's you know what? Follow your common sense. You'll logically do the right thing.
Well, also develop your common sense. Like,
You
it's an
gotta trust it.
ongoing affair. Like,
You got to trust it because everyone else tells you, that's not, wow, that can't be happening.
But I don't even know.
You got to trust it.
But let me ask you this. Your mom was talking about, hard work and resilience and all that.
Stick-to-itiveness.
Right. And she was saying you have to develop that. And I'm wondering if you need to develop your common sense as well. I don't know if we're just born with common sense. I feel like we were born with some common sense, but then we have to cultivate it. It's a daily thing to kind of cultivate your sense, your logic, I guess.
This is true. Maybe we should teach it more instead of just poo-pooing things that don't make, the standard of educational conformity, if you ask me, makes sense. We're going to lose our brightest minds if we don't tap into that. Not everybody thinks alike. We code differently. We're more visual. We don't necessarily read. That doesn't mean we're not comprehending. This is, again, that box that we get put into that I think is a tragedy. And that common sense, maybe we should be teaching more of that. It exists. What does it take when you see a tornado coming at you? Boy, what's your first instinct of what to do?
I'm from North Hollywood, so I'm like, I don't know, lay down in the bathtub. We don't have basements.
But actually, the middle room is, where you're supposed to go to. But you know what I mean by common sense. We all do. You can tap into that.
You know what we should do with every kid in, the 6th grade or whatever? Because I'm with you. When you were talking about your teacher hearing that you learn things
Kathy Borseth.
Audibly. And I had an experience once when I was watching like mysteries, Hollywood mysteries and all that, one of those AJ Benza shows or something like that. And for some reason, they were playing it in the car. It was in my radio, and I'd seen it on TV and not recalled that much of it. But when I was in my car at night and I turned it on the radio and there was no visual, just the audible part coming through, and I was hearing about this actress. And later on, when I got to work, I realized, I know how old this actress was. I know how she was killed. I know the year she was born. I know where she was and all that kind of stuff. And I realized I got so much more information from not having the visual part. Now, if you told me to read a story on that actress, I wouldn't have any. And maybe we should figure out for every kid entering the 5th grade, do you learn by hearing this? I have a habit and have had a habit of when I would talk to callers at night, when I do Love, I would close my eyes. I would just close my eyes, and everyone always go, "Why are you closing your eyes?" Because I don't want to be distracted by movement. I want to just listen. So I found, would probably work for you as well, when you're in an environment and someone is speaking and you really want to hear what they're saying, close your eyes, because when you start adding a visual and an aesthetic and sometimes just movement, sometimes someone can get up and walk away, you're like, your mind gets sucked into that for a second. Close your eyes and listen, and you will retain much, much more that way. Don't do it when you're driving like I used to do.
Yeah, right. No.
But we would then know which students were sort of visual students and which one are audible students and which one were reading text kind of students. And then we could proceed with a plan knowing that, because I was the same as you. Telling me to read something and then do the test was not going to yield any results.
I agree with you. See, this is where we go to city council. This is where you start making that strategic, because I think from an educational perspective, we are going to lose bright minds straight down that drain, right through the cracks. We already are, because we all learn a different way. This whole idea that just, my mom always taught me, just because you're different doesn't mean you're inferior. And I think when we think we're inferior, we start getting all kinds of fucked up.
Your mom did a lot of preaching.
She was a good girl. She was my journalist. My mom was a journalist major and a sociology major. So she always was in tune to that sense of self and self-esteem. And if you start thinking you got a low self-esteem, you're a piece of shit, I don't know. That's maybe what happens. And it's really hard to look at yourself. And I don't know. get over ourselves. Forgive yourself.
Well,
we're all got issues.
I think the problem is we circle it back to school and the system is I went through, and so many other kids do as well, but I went through so many years of failure as a student that it was really difficult to look at myself as anything but dumb.
Correct.
And there's really only one yardstick we were using to measure intelligence, and that was grades. And I was coming back with D's, C minus, D's, and occasional F. And so when you'd go, well, let's take an assessment of you. How smart are you? You'd go, well, look at the report card. I think you get a pretty good feel for how
Wish
smart
we
I
went to
am.
school together. We've been your best friend.
Oh, man, we could have made some real...
We could have had some fun.
We could have had some fun, man.
Proud. That would have been
Yes,
fun.
So I just thought when I got out of high school, I assumed I was dumb. I didn't even bother trying to define what smart and dumb was. I was just like, whatever the definition of dumb is, you seem to meet the requirement because I've seen your scholastic achievements over the last, 10 years, and they're not good. So I got a job, digging ditches and cleaning carpets and stuff like that because I didn't know any better. And it would be nice if they started to redefine that with school as well.
It's true. And I go over this again and again myself, and then Kathy Borseth and that teacher that saved me, dare she get outside of the box and give me those tests orally. And
that
again,
was innovative of her
right?
back in the day to do that.
And what it did for my GPA was great, and what it did for my self-esteem, because it gave me that moment to go, see, I can do this. I talk about in the book, oftentimes people, I feel, write me because they're looking for permission, to speak out, or should I or shouldn't I, or they aren't certain. And I'm happy to give you that permission if that's what you're looking for. But what they're really asking for is support. And that is something that Kathy Borseth did. She supported me, even though I was learning different. And look what came from it. And I think, we miss that sometimes. But people are looking for is support. That's why the collective, so logic, common sense, leverage, that's getting people, with you. I mean, 1 + 1 in math equals 2, but 1 + 1 in principle could be 1,000 or more. And we always think of leverage. Here again, it's how we perceive words as a bad thing. You're going to leverage money and do something bad. Leverage is, getting to know your neighbor again. And oftentimes, if you do, you'll realize they've got the same idea of an issue that you do. It's just that we're not talking about it, or we're talking about it or moaning about it, but we're not being heard. Get together. And logic and leverage goes a long way. I've seen that work over and over and over again. If it's 1 or 5, they'll just think it'll blow over. You're going to go away. When you start getting, 50, 500, 5,000, it starts saying something. And so you got to leverage yourself. Loyalty, it's your stick-to-itiveness. It's just being loyal to your cause.
Well, there's also relationships as well. Like I've realized that it's a little not apropos to this exactly, but
relationships is a slippery slope.
Well,
for me
I
to discuss ever.
I don't mean relationships.
Okay, good.
I mean, I was every year I go up and do the Rolex Historics race up in Monterey, and every year we stay at an Airbnb house, and every year before we leave, we clean the shit out of that house. Like, we empty the garbage, we make the bed, everyone picks up everything, all the dishes are done, and that house is spotless when we leave. And then the next year when we go, we want to rent your house again, the guy goes, thank you, because we're the guys who leave the house perfectly, versus the people that leave the pot of coffee and the dishes and the bed and the thing and the trash everywhere and whatever, where then that person goes, I don't know if I want these people back again. Maybe I get someone who's a little cleaner to come back. And so what I'm saying is, you are creating a relationship with that person, or you're certainly putting something in their head. And you are the guys who don't make a lot of noise, clean up real good, and pay on time. That means you're going to jump right to the front of the line every time they want to rent a place out to you. That's how it works. And I think people want one thing without the other. They're like, I don't want to clean this house, but I still want to jump to the front of the line. It's like, you don't get to the front of the line if you don't clean the house. You have to understand You've worked with a lot of these people. I've worked with a lot of people. These relationships are decades long. You can get greedy. I mean, you can work with a attorney or you can work with a realtor, and you can start getting real greedy and grabby and trying to get money and I want more and whatever. That's fine, but this will be the last job you guys work on together. People don't realize that it's such a marathon and it's a relationship. I mean, you have them in your world and I have them in my world, and those people have to want to work with you.
Yes.
And it's all based on the last time you guys worked together where you compromised.
Absolutely. And what you're saying is something that I think's been lost, and that's respect.
Yes.
Respect for yourself, respect for your relationship. And my father taught me about that. My dad was an engineer. He ran the pipelines for Citicorp back in the day. And he taught me the value of water and honesty and respect. And I got in big trouble because I skipped school. And, of course, I lied to him. You can't lie to my dad. And I got grounded for an entire school semester. I mean, talk about somebody who's stick-to-itiveness.
An entire semester.
How
old were you?
17.
Oh, my God.
Oh, it was awful. But he wrote me a letter. He had to go out of town. And I was not the slightest bit interested in that letter. And I put it away in a box. And I pulled it out again when I began my work in Hinckley. Now, I was a different person by now. I wasn't 17. I was a single mom, struggling mom with 3 kids. And I knew something was wrong in Hinckley. Driving home, I kept thinking, why is this bothering me so bad? And I realized somebody somewhere was lying, which made me think of my dad, who wasn't going to have anything to do. He said this is the domino effect that brings it all down, is that moment of deception or lies. When I got home that night, I found my dad's letter. And I talk a little bit about it in my book, Superman's Not Coming. Which is out August 25th.
Yes, sorry. Pre-ordered on Amazon.
And he taught me that if you, your mother, and brother and sister, we cannot honestly and freely communicate with each other. We've destroyed the very fiber of our being, which is your family and those relationships, which is the finest possession you'll have on this earth till you start your own. And he went on to say, because I had a big trip planned to Chicago, he took it away from me. He said, but what I want you to understand is the loss of that trip is not that great. The loss of our respect for each other would be much, much greater.
Yeah.
And I think that's been eroded over time.
I think people's version of respect is you respect me based on, I don't know what, you screaming at me to respect you. It's like, go earn it, live a lifestyle that's respectable,
It's
and I shall
and
respect you. Yes.
Correct. And it's right. And we have to do that together. And that's why your story's great about the Airbnb. You were respectful of that. And then in turn, they respect you back. There's an exchange there.
Well, we want a place to stay every year, and they want reliable people who are clean and quiet. And that's the roller skate and the key. Yeah, let me respect one of our sponsors over here, namely Butcher Box. It's hard to find 100% grass-fed and finished beef, free-range, organic heritage chicken, organic chicken and heritage breed pork, or wild-caught salmon, sockeye salmon from Alaska. Can't find all that at the grocery store, but you can find it at Butcher Box. One less trip to the grocery store and better, more affordable selection. Olga, that's my nanny. She's supposed to be my kid's nanny, but I've converted her into my nanny. Made the salmon the other night. It was spectacular. They do the steaks. We do it all. She makes all the dishes. It's always Butcher Box. It's always the best. Each box has between 9 and 11 pounds of meat, enough for 24 individual meals, and it's just around $6 a meal. Packed fresh, shipped frozen, vacuum sealed, free shipping nationwide, except for Alaska and Hawaii. Take meat off your list when you go to the supermarket, and let Butcher Box handle it. Just go to butcherbox.com/Adam and get all the quality meat delivered at butcherbox.com/Adam. So your family, man, they sound so noble to me, especially when I think about my family, like imparting wisdom, working hard,
Well, I had to do something just to get me through school. I
all
wasn't
that-
necessarily easy.
all that stuff. And so where'd you go to college?
So I went to Kansas State University and was doing my associates in applied arts there. That's one place because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. You got to remember, I came into college completely being the underdog because everybody told me you're not going to be able to do that. And of course, I'd quickly learned that I could be the cute, fun, girl.
Did you take the SATs?
I did, and I passed them. How, I don't know.
Because you had to read them, right?
Yeah, I probably eeny, meeny, miny, mo. No, I mean, listen, I make fun of myself. I know a lot more than people may think. I have a gift of observation.
Let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. I don't have the gift of observation because I'm sort of that way too. I'm just
I know.
Look
Are you
at
dyslexic?
everything all the time.
I feel a real educational city council moment coming on for you and I.
Well, my hypervigilance is based on probably growing up feeling fearful, like I wasn't going to get protected. I was kind of vulnerable. My family wasn't going to do anything. I had this sort of fight or flight thing. I was like like when you turn on the nature channel, you see all the lions are just laying on the ground in the middle of the Serengeti. Like they don't have a thought in the world. And then you see the little squirrels up in the tree and their heads moving around and they're like looking out all the time because they don't want to get eaten. Huh? And the lion's the apex predator and the lion's not worried about it. You kind of act like where the danger is. You know what I'm like my kids don't have a care in the world. That's kind of how they act. I had a lot of cares. And so I sort of acted accordingly. And I had to hear things and notice things because I felt like I wasn't going to. If somebody broke into the house, my mom wasn't going to protect me. That's the way I felt. So I felt like I needed to hear somebody breaking in the house early so I could get out and not just sleep through it, sort of thing. So I got this hypervigilance where I just kind of notice everything around me.
Yeah, but
and
I'm always, I have plan B all day long.
You were protected though, right?
Yeah, I don't think I felt.
You didn't come from the same place.
No, but I felt fear because I was often taught I was inferior because I wasn't perceived as smart as someone else when actually I really was. But that stuck with me.
Is it because you're like a tall, busty blonde that they were taught?
I've been labeled so many things.
But is that where the labels were coming from? You think?
Older in life. Younger in life, it was most of my friends, were very, very smart and were acing math. And I can take you all the way back to second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade. And I wasn't good at math or science. And you know how kids are. Oh, dummy. You know how that is. That sticks with you. The teachers would observe something.
They routinely would just go, well, sit next to her, she's smart, and don't sit next to him, he's dumb. Like that's how they would do it. If you want to cheat off someone, go sit next to her, not next to him. They just say smart and dumb. I don't even know if they I don't know what they meant by it, but that's how it was understood.
Well, that's an interesting word, understood, and that's where I was going to go next. I don't know that the teacher or the principal or the school system understood that I was different. And because I was, or they couldn't understand it, I had to go over here to a special ed class. And I just think we underestimate people. And even worse, we underestimate ourselves. That stuck with me for a very long time. It took me up into the age of 30 to even get to a point where when I was out in Hinckley, I'm like, yo, I got this. Experience, hands-on, goes a long way. And I would like to see that more in educational system, getting our kids out into hands-on issues in the environment, working in the communities, take them down to a city council meeting. I mean, all of these experiences, it's hard to learn just in a classroom.
I know.
And we never take them out. I've gotten my greatest education by being on the ground for 25 years with people and hurting my brain to understand water, how it works, a chemical, what it does to people. I mean, literally, my brain hurts.
Do you remember your field trips when you were in junior high and high school?
I would love it. It's because I was out of the classroom.
Where'd you go?
Oh my gosh, I'll never forget one. One of my favorite pictures. This is bizarre that I even thought of this. How did you even bring this up? Was
you were talking about getting
we
kids
went
out
to
and putting
Topeka,
them in.
Kansas.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite photos is we went to the Capitol. And I have my picture sitting behind the governor's desk. Like, I'm going to own this place.
You guys
with
did
Governor
go out.
Docking. Yes.
Wow.
At the time, Governor Docking.
See, we went to, I went to a McDonald's. I went to
No,
Laurie's seasoning
let's get
plant.
these kids out.
That's what I'm saying. I went to Alvera Street, which is there's a poncho.
You need
and
to be at
a
city
taco.
council here
Like
in
it's
LA.
like such a zero. It's a fucking zero.
Well, there's a lot of things you could be
Alvera
doing out
Street.
here.
Alvera Street.
We'll take you on a landscape tour of LA.
All of Sepulveda's Alvera Street now, like in the San Fernando Valley. Like we just go places to literally check the box. Like we're going to McDonald's. I went to McDonald's in like Silver Lake, but you didn't learn anything.
I would have never thought sitting here today talking to you that you are just a perfect example of everything I'm trying to say about Superman's not coming and how you owned yourself and accepted yourself. And
I didn't accept
motivated.
myself. I
well,
was.
look where you're sitting today.
Well, my situation was nobody's going to do anything for you. That's super clear. If in fact you want anything, like you would like, I like cars. If you would like, in fact, to drive a cool car versus a pickup truck, then you're going to have to figure that one out. And I also felt that way about, dental insurance and credit cards and travel and every facet of life that you might fall under the umbrella, that would be under the umbrella of enjoyment. Like, would you like to go out and have a steak dinner once in a while? Like, yes. Would you like to drive a nice car? Yes. Would you like to live in a decent house? Yes. Would you, when you get a parking ticket, would you like to not be devastated by the $60 toll? Yes. All these things that you would say yes to, I knew I wasn't going to have any of them, and no one was going to provide them for me or even help me obtain them. So I knew that when I was 15. So I was like, okay, your job is to get through high school and then go figure it out. And I began the process of trying to figure it out, like almost immediately, just based on wanting this stuff and knowing I was never going to get it.
What's that old adage? You give a child a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a child to fish.
Yeah.
Feed him for life.
Or a man, they probably would say. But
yeah.
But anyway.
Man.
Yeah, I was like, I got to teach myself to be I taught myself to be a carpenter, and then I sort of went, all right, you got to keep going. But there's
my kids get very frustrated. My kids are grown and gone and adults. I'm a grandmother of 4 now. But they don't like to hear. I'm like, here's my father growing up. I'd come and present a problem to him. It's not like, I'm going to open my checkbook and here's $50 and, you graduated and I'm going to get you a car. He'd always look at me and he'd go, it's going to be really interesting to watch how you work this out.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't enable me, but he challenged me in a way. And I was always like, what does he mean by that?
Well, it's
we can't always fix something for someone. We need to allow them or respect them in the space. At some point, you do have to kind of work through things yourself. I think we've forgotten that.
Yeah.
I think there's a wake-up moment happening for us, and we've really thought there is no wizard behind that curtain.
Well, it's going to be hard to kind of synthesize what I grew up in with my kids, because my kids know Daddy's got a bunch of warehouses with a bunch of expensive cars in them, and one day they'll just own those warehouses and those expensive cars. Like, that's the way they think. They're not snotty, but they've done the math, Whereas I did the same math, but it was no warehouses and no cars. So I did the math as well. How we get kids to act motivated like I was, minus the motivating factor, that's the tough part. How do you give them that fire in their belly when it's, filled with Hot Pockets?
Well, generally, if I don't give it to them and they want it bad enough, or they see their friends with it, they'll figure out how to do it.
Did your kids have that motor that you have?
Yes, they all do. They're all really very, very smart. my son is an iron journeyman worker. I really pushed him because he wasn't sure where he wanted to go, and he got into the union at a young
he
age.
in Vegas or something?
He was a big part of building the city center. But he needed to get something done, so he joined the United States Army. I went through a pretty bad deployment, Bronze Star, Purple Heart recipient, and smart kid, and he just felt that he needed to do that service. I think that's interesting. They've all kind of put themselves in that service position. My daughter Elizabeth is more in the medical field, and she decided to join the military as well.
Really?
Yeah, and she was 10th Mountain. She was going to be an officer. And my son was, Matthew was 10th Mountain. She was Old Ironside, El Paso, Texas.
So,
but they're both civilians and out now. But it was interesting to watch them. They had that call to action that
you say
they
you had
felt
3
they
kids?
needed to do. Yeah, and then Katie, she's my kind of tech, that's her focus.
2 of your kids joined the Army.
2. And my father was military.
Oh, well, maybe that, because
he's thinking.
That's interesting to me. I grew
I'm
up
a military mom.
I grew up in a weird time and in a weird place where nobody I knew joined the Army, even though there were plenty of guys who probably should have, because including myself, I didn't have anything and we didn't do, but we all just elected to just clean carpets or pick up garbage on a construction site, but nobody joined the forces. It wasn't part of what we knew or what anyone did. There was you'd have to get a haircut. It seemed weird.
This was what they chose to do. Believe me, I was a little taken back.
They both arrived at that independently?
Yes.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And again, having this conversation, things come to me and it makes me think, we're here kind of again, and I talk about my Wizard of Oz. I think we're all on a journey, and we're just going to have to realize we got to get to a journey. But at the end of the day, the moral of the story is what I think we've forgotten. Each of us as individuals, we have a heart and we have a brain. And even though it may be different, we have a brain, and we're perfectly capable of using it. And we have courage. I think we've been oppressed not to believe it, or we've forgotten about it, or we've given up on ourselves. But for me, that is the moment. And I think my children, even in the military, had that moment where they felt they needed to do something, but they knew that they would have to have the courage. And they had the heart, and they had the mindset to do it. And they set out, whatever it may be, that moment, that call to action. And I think that's a message, and I don't want our next generations to forget it.
I want to talk about courage for a second because I'm a little worried about it. First, let me hit LifeLock here. Nearly 50,000 falsified unemployment claims in Maryland, more than 500 million in claims. Maryland isn't alone. Other states are finding similar unemployment fraud as well. You need to protect yourself, people. The cyber hackers are out there. They're trying to steal your identity. It's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting our lives. Every day we put our info out on the internet, and you're putting yourself at risk. You can miss certain identity threats if you're just monitoring your credit alone. LifeLock detects a wide range of identity threats, like your Social Security number for sale on the dark web. If they detect the information or your information is out there, they'll send you an alert. Protect yourself with LifeLock, right, Dawson?
No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. LifeLock can see threats you might miss on your own. Join now and save up to 25% off your first year by using promo code Adam. Call 1-800-LifeLock or head to LifeLock.com. Use promo code Adam for 25% off.
Courage. I'm worried about this courage that's going on, or this lack thereof, because I'm noticing that it's being sort of synthesized a little. So what I'm saying is I've never heard more people call other people brave who weren't really doing things that were brave. You know, they go, this actor is so brave to take on this role or whatever. It's like, that's not bravery. It's something else. But we're throwing it out a lot now. Mm-hmm. Like these heroes, these are brave, they're heroes, everything. And I thought, why are we speaking brave and hero all the time? And because we're caught in this constant struggle, this battle of wanting to do things to prove to ourselves and to those around us that we are brave,
an internal
but
battle.
not wanting to put our fucking hang it out because you join the Army, fine, but you might not come back. So we want the braveness part, but we don't want the part where we might not come back. So we're trying to reconcile that. And what we're doing is we're talking a lot now. We're not doing a lot. And I know it's important to feel as if you are risking, and it's all, whatever we talk about, when you eulogize someone, that's what you say. Like, this person, they risked this. They didn't care what the other people said. They did what was right, even though it meant that blah, 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 and they had in the face of adversity and blah, blah, blah. But everyone is looking at keeping it safe. So we're now wanting to keep it safe and then announce everyone's a hero. And that's why we're struggling a lot with this stuff.
Well, I think I agree. And, again, Superman's not coming. Is this our wake-up call? Has there been an illusion? Did we follow what we drank the Kool-Aid, if you will? Did we buy the bullshit? Did we get comfortable? Did we get complacent? I think we're in a wake-up moment. And everything that we're talking about may be what we lost and maybe what we're waking up to and maybe right where we're going to get back to. No one's going to do it except you.
No,
that individual.
I agree, and no one's going to be, just because you got a free dog at the pound doesn't mean you rescued the dog and you're a hero. I'm all for dogs not being destroyed. I mean, just let's save the rescue and the hero part for, firemen or folks that join the Army, like your kids. And now I noticed, speaking of that, everyone seems to have some different relationship with COVID-19. I am relatively unaffected, so I then get confused because I talk to some of my friends sometimes and I go, oh, we'll just swing by on our way back. And they go, not in the house. And I'll go, what? I'll go, we're socially distancing. And I go, you're doing this. Or for you, it's on. For me, I'd forgotten about it.
Yeah.
My biggest concession is I have to remember to bring a mask if I go into a Trader Joe's. I don't walk around with a mask. I don't do anything, basically, which is not a denial of it. I just don't. I don't do anything as it pertains to being attacked by a shark or hit by lightning either. It's just I don't do anything. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying it hasn't happened to other people. I just personally don't have a protocol.
Right.
But you're sitting here without a mask on, so obviously.
It's
with
me. See it over sitting right there.
Yeah.
So when I came in, I checked at the door. I'm like, mask requirement or not.
But your relationship with this is not of fear, or at least coming from the kind of fear that a lot of people are coming from.
No, but we've had this conversation. I observe, I listen, I have a plan B. I have my mask. I have them hanging in the car. I have my throw-out ones. I find out beforehand. There is obviously a virus out there, and it's contagious. I do a lot of world travel. How I've come out of some of the places I've come out and I've not gotten sick, I often wonder. What concerns me, what I'm more afraid of is it's not misinformation, but such inconsistent information that it's really creating a distrust and fear amongst people. And that's what concerns me and how I'm going to decipher how I'm going to deal with this. So I do have a mask. I don't go into a bar with 10,000 people. I'm off the lecture circuit. We all are. I would hesitate to go into a big crowd at this moment because I'm uncertain. If I'm uncertain, I'll back out and I'll take a look around me. So I have my mask. I'm cautious, and I try not to let the fear get to me because I don't know that I want to live that way.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's this kind of fear umbrella I talk about, and it's just ever expanding, and the government sometimes takes it and runs with it, and everything's in the name of safety and the safety for the kids and safety for everybody.
And we should respect that. And I know you do after the conversation we have, and I do too. And so when I go into a store, I'll have my mask on.
Well, it's a balance.
It is
the way
a balance.
I feel. And look, people always, probably think this is hyperbole, but I race automobiles, and I have a fire suit and a helmet and all the equipment and all the stuff. And it would be safer if everyone just wore a helmet when they drove. You know what I mean? Like, it would be a safer world. There'd be less fatalities and whatever that is. And I agree with that, but I also agree that, well, it's pretty low. You know, it's pretty low chance of you dying behind the wheel of a car in this modern age. And we shouldn't have the government decreeing that everyone needs to wear a helmet when they drive their car. And so for me, it's a balance. It's like the government needs to have some regulations on flight and airport safety and like all that kind of stuff. But I don't need to wear a helmet when I'm driving my car. That would be overreach. And so my feeling is like, let's see if we can get this balance right, personally and with the government.
I agree with you, and it does need to be a balance, and that's what I try to do for myself, and I hope others does. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It does. I've had friends that have had it. I've had 2 friends almost die from it. I mean, it's real. It's there. So I try to balance and take the precautions and implement that without too much fear. And I'll tell you, I felt really terrorized in the beginning. And what hurt me, I think hurts all of us, is we've suddenly just been ripped apart from each other. And it's very daunting to just be alone. I was basically alone during that quarantine. And again, that balance is important. That balance can create trust. And we don't have that right now. And all the information coming out is so inconsistent. And I talk to my friends and people all the time, and they're like, oh my God, which is it? Wear a mask? Don't wear a mask. You can touch surfaces. You can't touch surfaces. So I think you are smart enough. We're smart enough. Everyone is. You're going to have to observe what's happening around you and find that balance and be protective.
Yeah.
And
I go for a hike every day. I don't wear a mask. And then I go into a Trader Joe's and I put on a mask because I'm observing and I'm weighing risks. And
I go for a hike every day. I think part of what will be just as damaging as the COVID is we can't go anywhere in that lockup, and we can't get outside in the exercise in the sunshine. And I got to tell you what, we need each other. And I know a whole lot's going on, but you said it perfectly. There's got to be a balance. And right now we are swinging one way or the other.
Yeah, agreed. And also, the problem is when the government, especially here in Los Angeles, when the mayor is saying, you can't go get your hair cut and you can't get your nails done, but you can go into an airplane.
Right.
But
we talk about that. You're
like,
right.
It's like, come on, you got to figure it out. Be a little more consistent. It's like a few months ago, and they're like, you can go to the beach, you can walk on the beach, we can't lay down on the beach. Like, really, can't lay down on the beach? Like this, and what you do is, I was talking to Dr. Drew about this, is you create a reefer madness situation, which is you tell all the kids, pot's a killer, you're going to go insane, you're going to stab someone and then jump off the building. You keep telling them that, and eventually they go, you know what, I don't think it's that bad. I'm going to smoke some weed. So you get the opposite effect. You wanted to get them to do this, that, and the other, but your message was too inconsistent and too doom and gloom, and eventually the kids stop listening.
That's right. That's exactly what's happening. And we've been talking about that whole time. How do you get someone to listen?
All right, let me hit
How are you heard?
Geico last here. Geico, they're offering 15% off credit for your car insurance, motorcycle, RV policies as well. That's 15% on top of the money Geico would already be saving you. So what are you waiting for? No better time to switch over to Geico. Save an extra 15%. If you do it by October 7th, you can get going right now. Go to geico.com and learn more at geico.com. Erin, where did the time go, man? I blinked my eyes.
That's what I just did. Right, we're in a COVID world, though. There is no time.
I think it's because we're both so stimulating verbally that the time just melts away.
I was sitting over here listening to you, and I'm like, what is Adam Carolla's campaign going to look like?
I want to fix those freeway on-ramps, man. They're driving me insane.
I have a feeling you're going to do it.
Superman's Not Coming is the name of the new podcast. It'll be on this Friday on Podcast One and Apple Podcasts as well. And you can look for the book coming out, I think, the 25th of August. 25th. That's right. Pre-order it now on Amazon as well. And shoot Erin a tweet at Erin Brockovich, and also website brockovich.com as well. Let's do it again, Erin. This was stimulating.
I agree. Thank you. It was great being here. Like I said, I'm going to be thinking, I'm going to call you. Got that campaign going?
Please. I'm your emotional support analyst. The name of my book. You can get on Amazon and leave a review. And hopefully Tempe, Arizona, coming up at the Improv September 18th and 19th. Go to adamcarolla.com and go to our YouTube page and all that. Until next time, Adam Carolla for Erin Brockovich saying mahalo.
Stick around. Dave Damashek and Adam Carolla return with good sports right after this.